Chapter 282. In the Forest of Death, Naruto's group was moving slowly and cautiously toward the depths of the forest. Not far behind them, a man dressed like a ninja of the Kusanagi country was squatting on a tree, staring at the three young ninjas, as if he was looking at something interesting. Like most ninjas, this ninja also hid his face in the shadow of his clothes and the hat on his head, but even such a shadow couldn't cover his strange eyes. The yellow eyes with a little gray became like a snake's vertical pupils, and the emotions revealed in his eyes were as sinister and cunning as a snake. Just when he saw that Naruto seemed to find an excuse to go somewhere else to solve his physiological problem, this person with snake-like eyes seemed to feel that his opportunity has arrived. He bit his finger in his mouth and wiped it on his palm, then his hand began to form hand seals quickly. Although he only formed a few hand seals, anyone who is proficient in ninjutsu can see that these are the hand seals of the summoning jutsu. However, just as the psychic seal was about to be completed, the snake-eyed man's hands suddenly stopped. He took out a kunai from his arms with a little doubt and found that there was an extremely unnatural crack on his kunai. The man seemed to be in a bad mood, then he said, "Are these people all idiots? Such a simple task actually went wrong. I thought that Kabuto was worth training, but now it seems that I still have to think about it." After saying that, he glanced at Sasuke, who was waiting for Naruto to solve his physiological problem in the forest with a trace of reluctance. The snake-eyed man left the branch where he was hiding and ran in one direction. Kabuto looked nervously at the forest around him, as if he was afraid of something. Originally, Kuroto, and Mei's identities could be said to be flawless. Even if there were many Umbu investigating them before the exam, Kuroto, and Kuroto were able to pass all kinds of investigations with the help of fake information and Danzo. After passing the first round of the exam with much difficulty, they entered the second round of the exam. As long as he could successfully collect the scrolls, he would be able to give up on the examination when he reached the central tower. But for some reason, such a simple plan was disrupted by the sudden appearance of a masked man. Moreover, what's more terrifying is that this masked man directly used his speed to knock out his two temporary teammates. Even with his many years of experience, he still couldn't see through this person's background. This was the most frightening thing for Medicine Master Bag. I hope you can find a suitable reason for messing up my plan. Otherwise, I can only let you be my experiment instrument. Recently, due to various reasons, the experimental materials have become insufficient. With your strength, you are quite suitable to be an experimental material. A somewhat hoarse and gloomy voice came from behind Medicine Master Pocket. Medicine Master Pocket's entire body trembled, and he hurriedly half-knelt behind him. His head was so low that his neck could be seen. Orochimaru-sama. The situation has changed. Just now, a masked man kidnapped Jian Meicheng in red copper armor. I was lucky enough to escape by relying on the escape ninjutsu taught by Orochimaru-sama. Oh. Hearing Medicine Master Pocket's words, Orochimaru was a little surprised. Medicine Master Pocket's overall strength has reached the level of Special Jonin. Such a person actually retreated without a fight? Orochimaru also felt a little interested. Can you recognize who this person is? Medicine Master Pocket heard Orochimaru's question and naturally knew that Orochimaru was interested in the person who kidnapped his temporary teammates. This person's speed is extremely fast, and I didn't feel that he used chakra at all. I can be sure that he has reached the speed of the body flicker technique by relying on his physical fitness. And because the strength of red copper armor and Jian Meicheng is limited, he didn't reveal any more information. This person is still dressed in black clothes, wearing a mask, and putting away his hair. He is very experienced. Just by relying on such one-sided information, I can't judge who this person is for the time being. Orochimaru didn't scold Medicine Master Pocket for not getting more information. Instead, he rubbed his chin with his hand, as if he wanted to find someone from his memory who fits Medicine Master Pocket's description more closely, but he found that many people only fit one of the information. Either they are not strong enough, or they are not as cautious as this person. But Orochimaru is also a person who can see the overall situation, and soon he didn't care about the identity of the attacker. Get up. It's already good that you were able to leave so decisively and inform me of this information. It doesn't matter that Jian Meicheng and Crimson Copper Armor were captured. The information they know is really little. At most, they know your and my identity and our interest in Sasuke. It doesn't matter. But you don't need to take the exam this time, just give up your current identity and go outside to prepare for the next mission. Orochimaru told Kabuto about the new task, and Kabuto himself was trained as a spy, so losing an exposed identity was not a big deal. So, he directly jumped away from Orochimaru. Orochimaru whispered softly in the same place, "It seems that this Chunin exam is really interesting. There was information before that the old pervert has also returned to Woodleaf, so now the Kage-level ninjas in Woodleaf are 3 generations, Minato, Watergate, and Jiraiya? It seems that the materials for that jutsu need to start accumulating, otherwise, it will be easy to fall into a passive situation." After that, Orochimaru also turned into many small snakes and disappeared. At this time, Nangongja also sent the 2 spies he knocked out to Anko. Anko seemed to have found the body of a hidden, faceless Kusanagi, and her whole body trembled as if she remembered something unpleasant. Chapter 283. In the Hokage's office, Watergate was sitting in his chair, looking at Nangongja, Ibiki, and Anko standing in front of him. His expression was a bit gloomy. Obviously, he wasn't in a good mood. "Ibiki. What's the result of the interrogation?" Minato suddenly asked Ibiki. Ibiki's originally very serious face had a drop of cold sweat at this moment. He was just a ninja who presided over the interrogation, but the things he interrogated had a lot of implications. This made Ibiki feel a lot of pressure. Ibiki's face was originally very serious, but at this moment, a drop of cold sweat was dripping down his face. Originally, he thought that he could pretend to be an ostrich for a while and let Nangongja and Anko speak first, but now that Watergate called him out, Ibiki had no choice but to speak. The interrogation has been completed, and these 2 spies have already gotten a lot of information with the help of the Yamanaka clan. What is certain is that these 2 people are indeed spies left by Orochimaru in the Woodleaf. Although they are only genin over the years, they have also provided a lot of information about the Woodleaf to Orochimaru. This time, the task of participating in the Chunin exam is to complete Orochimaru's task of connecting with the orphan of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Sasuke. As he said that, Ibiki's forehead was full of sweat. Obviously, he felt that the next words were not so easy to say. Watergate also saw Ibiki's embarrassment. According to Watergate's usual temperament, he wouldn't force Ibiki to say the next words, but obviously, at the moment when the Woodleaf was about to be invaded, Watergate's attitude was a lot tougher, and he said to Ibiki with a serious face, "Why are you hesitating? Just say what you want to say." Ibiki was also slightly frightened by Minato's seriousness at this moment. He forcibly suppressed the messy thoughts in his mind, cleared his throat, and seemed to be organizing his words. Finally, he opened his mouth and said, "Don't worry." According to the testimony of these 2 people, it seems that Root is also involved in this operation. It was Root who came forward to cover up their information, and they were able to pass all kinds of assessments to enter the Chunin exam. But this information can't be confirmed yet, so our interrogation department is still suspicious of such information. Although he said that he was suspicious, how could Ibiki not pay attention to such information when interrogating these 2 people? He constantly let the Yamanaka clan use psychic secret technique to explore the memories of these 2 people, and now these 2 people are almost like fools. But because of his position, Ibiki absolutely can't directly point the spear at Danzo, so he added the words of suspicion. Watergate's reaction, Ibiki's S, but the clenched fists on the table can't prove that Watergate wasn't as calm as he appeared. Shuego looked at Anko and asked, "What do you think? Is there any information on the second exam site?" Anko's eyes were also in a trance, and her pupils were even a little lax, but when she heard Watergate's question, she forced herself to focus and said to Watergate, "We found a place where a Kusanagi ninja participating in the exam had his face peeled off using a secret technique. Because of my familiarity with Orochimaru, I know that he has sneaked into the exam venue. Not long ago, we also sent a team of ninjas to explore the Forest of Death and found that Uchiha Sasuke of Team 7 has been cursed and is still in a coma." After saying that, it seems that the curse mark left by Orochimaru's experiment also began to move, making Enko's face look very painful. Hearing the words Team 7, Watergate's expression also changed. Isn't his son also in Team 7? What about the others in the same team? Enko thought for a while and said to Watergate, "Uzumaki Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke of the same team seem to have fallen into a coma. The Umbu ninja seems to have found traces of the Nine Tails chakra outbreak around them. But now it's certain that neither Uzumaki Naruto nor Uchiha Sasuke's life is in danger." Haruno Sakura also showed excellent medical skills and performed timely rescue. The Umbu has sent a team to follow them. Once there is any situation that may endanger their lives, the Umbu will directly take action. As a member of Woodleaf, Naruto's identity and importance are naturally well known, so after Anko found traces of Orochimaru, she immediately transferred an Umbu team to Naruto's vicinity. That's good. Anko and Ibiki, you can leave for now. Nangong, stay for a while, I have something to tell you. After Anko and Ibiki bowed to Watergate, they also left respectfully. Nangongja saw that both of them had left, so he found a sofa and sat down casually. "Did you contact the little girl from Uzumaki clan?" Watergate saw Nangongja's casual attitude and didn't have any disgust. Instead, he asked his own question. "Not yet. When I found these two little mice, I immediately came to report. And I think it's better for Kushina to get in touch with this child than for me, isn't it?" Nangongja said to Watergate, and at the same time made his own suggestion. Watergate also frowned, but he felt that letting Nangongja contact such a little girl is indeed a bit of a waste of talent, so he nodded and said to Nangongja, "Well, I will ask Shina Kushina to contact this child. Now that we know that Orochimaru has sneaked into Woodleaf, I have a more important task for you. As long as you complete this task, even if the plan to attack Woodleaf is really unfortunately carried out, our losses will be reduced a lot." With that said, Shui Men took out a map from his desk and handed it to Nangongja, then he instructed, "Don't worry, Nangongja. You also know the target of the task. When the time comes, just explain the situation to him directly." Nangongja nodded and left Watergate's office. Walking to the door of the Hokage office, Nangongja opened the map in his hand, but he found that the map in his hand was actually the map of Woodleaf Village, but there were many places marked with red crosses. Why is the marked place not a pub but a bathhouse? Nangongja sighed, but he also vaguely knew who he was going to look for to help Woodleaf. This person is indeed outstanding, but his character. Chapter 284. Although Nangongja has been in Woodleaf for a long time, he's not the kind of person who likes to go out with others. Except for some famous commercial streets in Woodleaf, Nangongja is familiar with, he only knows the general location of other places. This may be one of the reasons why Nangongja doesn't have a wide range of friends in Woodleaf. The map that Watergate gave to Nangongja basically marked all the large and small pubs and baths in Woodleaf. As a village with a large population, there are a lot of such entertainment places. Maybe Nangongja's luck isn't so good, but he didn't find Jiraiya even after walking half a circle around Woodleaf. Nangongja also felt a little tired, so he casually sat on a bench on the side of the road and prepared to sit down and rest. Looking at the pedestrians in front of him and the surrounding green trees and fragrant grass, Nangongja suddenly felt very comfortable. Originally, Nangongja still cared about the mission and some other troublesome matters, but now, he temporarily pushed them out of his mind. Forget it. Anyway, I'm not in a hurry. According to my speculation, Orochimaru's plan should be at least in the second half of the Chunin exam. At that time, all the important people will gather. This is the best time to act. Now, even if I find Jiraiya, with Orochimaru's hiding method, it won't be easy for anyone to find him, right? Perhaps because he convinced himself, Nangongja also took out the azure jade gourd that has been hanging on his back, opened the cork, and began to drink slowly. The azure jade gourd contains the lost drunken immortal wine. The drunken immortal wine that originally came from the banishment elder has been consumed by Nangongja. Under the urging of the liquor worm in his stomach, Nangongja has been staring at Aoki Jar after dealing with the affairs in the Blood Cloak Pavilion, hoping that Aoki Jar can make the drunken immortal wine. After referring to many ancient books in the Blood Cloak Pavilion, he finally made a wine similar to the drunken immortal wine. As soon as the cork was opened, the fragrance of the wine directly floated out of the azure jade gourd. Unlike ordinary wine, the aroma of the drunken immortal brew formed a white mist in the air and drifted in all directions. The people who passed by Nangongja only smelled the fragrance of the wine, but many of their faces turned a little pink, as if they were drunk. Originally, many people noticed that the azure jade gourd in Nangongja's hand was the source of the wine fragrance, but although Nangongja was just sitting there, the residents of the Woodleaf noticed that Nangongja was extraordinary. As members of the Woodleaf, although their strength may be average, their eyesight was extremely accurate. Although many people were tempted, they noticed that Nangongja's strength must be extraordinary, so they didn't dare to disturb him. If you don't believe me, you can see a group of people squatting under a tree on the corner of the street opposite Nangongja. They were trying their best to sniff the drunken immortal wine in Nangongja's hand. Nangongja was too lazy to pay attention to these people. He just held his azure jade gourd and poured a mouthful of wine into his mouth from time to time. Nangongja drank the wine in his mouth, and just as Nangongja was about to raise the azure jade gourd to his mouth again, a hand reached out from behind Nangongja and grabbed Nangongja's wrist. Hey, hey, hey! Kid, don't waste this kind of wine. Let me taste it for you. The person who spoke in a very dissolute tone, like a madman who didn't care about anything. Nangongja also saw a strand of hair on his shoulder that belonged to the person behind him. It was a strand of long white hair. So Nangongja looked back and saw a person with 2 streaks of red oil paint on his face. His white hair was a little messy, and the word "boil" was written on his forehead was standing behind him. I say, Jiraiya-sama. I haven't seen you for so long, why do you want to drink my wine? Jiraiya also looked down at Nangongja, as if he didn't recognize Nangongja. He just looked at the azure jade gourd again. Today, I don't know why, but a kid has been haunting the tavern and the bath. In order not to let this kid bring me trouble, I endured for a long time and didn't show up. But this kid actually took out such a good wine, I can't miss it, can I? Although Jiraiya kept calling him brat and brat, Nangongja knew that Jiraiya was actually clear about his plan to find him. But maybe Jiraiya didn't know why he was looking for him, so Nangongja also said to Jiraiya, actually, this kid originally wanted to find a senpai to drink with. But after looking for a long time, I didn't find this senpai at all. Everything can wait, but wine can't wait, right? Since I can't find him, I have to enjoy it myself. After all, a snake sneaked up to the tree. As a person leaning against the tree, I naturally had to enjoy myself. This snake wanted to break my back. This is a huge snake. When Jiraiya heard the word snake, the hand holding Nangongja's wrist trembled, as if he didn't think of this matter. So, Jiraiya's expression also became serious. You mean, a snake came to the Woodleaf? Not only that, many people came to the Woodleaf with the snake, they came with saws and axes. But there aren't many people looking after the tree right now. That's why I came here, hoping to find someone to look after this tree with us. Nangongja said to Jiraiya, but both of them looked calm. Obviously Jiraiya has realized the importance of this matter. A group of people led by Orochimaru wanted to destroy the Woodleaf. Although Jiraiya left Konoha for various reasons, few people can surpass this former Sanin's feelings for Konoha. It seems that Watergate asked you to come to me? I also came back because I heard some rumors, but I didn't expect the situation to have reached this point. Since Watergate asked you to come to me, then I can't refuse. I will go to the Hokage's office now, and when I understand the situation, I will come to drink with you. After that, Jiraiya jumped on a nearby roof and ran all the way to the Hokage's office. Chapter 285. Looking at the Sasuke in front of her, covered with black tadpole-like runes and full of violent aura, Sakura only felt that the person in front of her was not the handsome Sasuke she knew at all. Are you, the one who hurt my teammates? Sasuke looked at the three Otogekyure ninja in front of him with a cruel look on his face. After Sasuke and Naruto fell into a coma, Sakura had been carefully looking after the two of them, but Naruto was in a coma because of the battle with the man who claimed to be Orochimaru. Sasuke was even more dangerous. After being bitten on the neck by the man who claimed to be Orochimaru, he had been in a coma with a high fever. Sakura, who was usually the object of protection, suddenly changed her role and became the person who protected her two teammates. However, shortly after Sakura moved her two teammates into this tree hole, three Otogekyure ninja jumped out. They seemed to not only want to snatch the scroll belonging to Team 7, but also want to kill the three people of Team 7. In order to protect her teammates, Sakura had to stand up and fight these three ninja. At first, these three people didn't think highly of Sakura and only sent one person to deal with Sakura. However, Sakura was trained by Kakashi and Nangongja after all. Not long ago, she strengthened her beliefs with the help of Nangongja. When the real battle started, Sakura directly suppressed the Otogekyure ninja who was sent to fight with her. Seeing that their teammates couldn't attack, the other two Otogekyure ninja couldn't sit still and joined the battle together. If it was a one-on-one, Sakura had the confidence to win. But when these three ninja came up to fight with Sakura together, Sakura could only barely protect herself. Under the special sonic attack of Otogekyure, Sakura also suffered a lot of injuries. Whether it was her nose or ears, they began to bleed. After that, Ino, Sakura's former classmate and one of her best friends, also jumped out with her teammates to help Sakura resist the attacks of these three Otogekyure ninja. The battle barely maintained a balance. At this time, Sasuke, who was still in a deep coma with a high fever, woke up. Moreover, Sasuke's body was covered with black runes from the initial bite, which made Sasuke's appearance look very strange. Sasuke's special state not only made Konoha's ninjas stop their movements, but also made Otogekyure's ninjas look surprised. Curse Seal was not so unfamiliar to several people from Otogekyure. You know, among the ninjas of Otogekyure, the 5 ninjas of Otogekyure were all people with Curse Seal. And Sasuke's body was now covered with black runes, which was the appearance of the first stage of Curse Seal. This made the 3 ninjas of Otogekyure, who didn't know what happened, a little dazed. But the ninjas of Otogekyure didn't move, but it didn't mean that Sasuke didn't move. At this moment, Sasuke's eyes have automatically turned into the 2 Tomo Sharingan state, and the 2 Tomo were spinning quickly. Sasuke only felt that his heart seemed to be ignited by a flame. When his eyes looked at the 3 Otogekyure ninjas who hurt his companions, the emotion of wanting to tear them apart couldn't be suppressed. So, Sasuke decided to dispel this feeling in his heart. Beyond his usual speed, Sasuke quickly came behind an Otogekyure ninja, grabbed the ninja's 2 wrists with his hands, and stepped on the man's back with his feet. Sasuke said to the ninja who was caught by him, "It was your hands that injured my companion, wasn't it?" Before the ninja of Otogekyure could respond, Sasuke had already pulled the man's arm in his direction with both hands. The huge force directly dislocated the ninja of Otogekyure's arm. Such severe pain made the ninja of Otogekyure scream loudly, and a layer of hazy sweat appeared on his forehead because of the severe pain. Such a miserable scream naturally reached Sasuke's ears, but such a harsh sound made Sasuke feel an indescribable pleasure. Sasuke's heart was eager to hear more of such sounds. But how could he increase the number of such sounds? Sasuke's eyes were a little puzzled, and he tilted his head slightly as if he was thinking. It didn't take long for Sasuke's eyes to light up. Letting go of the ninja's hands under his feet, Sasuke reached his hand to the ninja tool bag behind him, and a kunai was in Sasuke's hand. His eyes wandered around the body of the Otogekyure ninja under his feet. Finally, as if he had chosen a target, he directly inserted the kunai in his hand between the ribs of the ninja under him. Because it could avoid the ribs, the kunai quickly inserted itself deeply into the Otogekyure ninja. As Sasuke expected, the ninja did start to roar violently, but Sasuke gradually felt a little tired. Just this kind of roar was not enough for him to enjoy. Sasuke only held the handle of the kunai with his hand and began to rotate the kunai in his flesh. The width of the kunai was greater than the distance between the ribs, so when rotating the kunai inserted in the flesh, the Otogekyure ninja's ribs were inevitably damaged, and some broken bones were also inserted into the Otogekyure ninja's lungs. Whether it was the bone stubble inserted into the lungs or the kunai deeply inserted into the flesh, the Otogekyure ninja felt that breathing was getting more and more difficult, and there was a burning sensation in the lungs. The screams were getting louder and louder, but they slowly became smaller because of the hand on the lungs. In the end, only the sound of ragged breathing was left. Chapter 286. The Sound Ninja team was composed of 2 men and 1 woman, and the one whose hands were destroyed by Sasuke just now was a sound ninja named Sak. As ninja from Orochimaru's ninja village, although the 3 of them were a team, they didn't have the kind of mutual trust and interdependence that Wood Leaf's ninja team advocated. Instead, each of them was on guard. Between the choice of protecting their teammates and protecting themselves, they didn't hesitate to choose the latter. Just like now, the remaining 1 man and 1 woman in the Sound Ninja team didn't have the desire to save their teammates under Sasuke's aggressive gaze. Instead, they hoped that Sasuke could choose the other one of them to attack, and then escape in the chaos. After watching for a long time, Sasuke turned his gaze to the female ninja named Gold among the 2. He twisted his neck, and the cervical vertebrae made a crack sound. Sasuke was ready to make a move, but just as Sasuke took a step, a voice sounded behind Sasuke. Enough. This Sasuke is not the person I know. The person who shouted was naturally Sakura. Although Sasuke was usually cold to people and somewhat eccentric, he wasn't such a madman who enjoyed torturing others. At the beginning, Sakura saw Sasuke wake up, and her heart was inevitably filled with joy. But the first thing Sasuke did after waking up was to attack the ninjas who besieged him. No, the word attack shouldn't be used, it should be abuse. Sasuke abused the ninjas who attacked Sakura, and as the abuser, he didn't have the slightest bit of guilt. Instead, he seemed to enjoy the opponent's wailing and used various means to torture these opponents. Such a person was more like a madman than a person. How could a person who had lost his soul and was only venting his inner beastly nature be the person he had been watching all this time? Therefore, when Sasuke was about to attack the female ninja among the Sound Ninjas, Sakura could no longer suppress her inner resistance to Sasuke's current appearance, and such words directly blurted out. Sasuke also heard his teammates' organization and turned his head to look at Sakura. His originally handsome face was covered in black runes, making him look exceptionally ferocious. His original handsome appearance was nowhere to be seen. Sasuke's eyes were also filled with a strong madness. He stared at Sakura with a little doubt and said to Sakura, "What are you talking about? Why are you stopping me? I'm doing this for you. A bunch of trash like you actually dared to hurt my teammates. Naturally, I want them to have a taste of the bitter consequences of doing such a thing. I'm clearly helping you vent your anger. Why are you stopping me?" Sasuke's words were justified, as if everything he did was reasonable, but Sakura stopped him, which made Sasuke feel incomprehensible. Sakura looked at Sasuke blankly, as if she didn't react to Sasuke's answer. She could only slowly walk in front of Sasuke. The 3 Sound Ninja were directly ignored by Sakura, because Sasuke was now the person she cared about the most. She gently placed her hand on Sasuke's face, and her fingertips brushed across the black lines on Sasuke's face. Sasuke's body was still very hot, obviously, the high fever had not subsided. Because the high fever took away a lot of water from Sasuke's body, Sasuke's skin became extremely dry, and Sakura also felt the roughness from Sasuke's skin. What kind of thing can make you like this? The Sasuke I know is very proud and stubborn. He used his expressionless face to cover his scarred heart in front of people again and again. However, I don't hate Sasuke like that. Because even after experiencing a lot of things that ordinary people can't accept, the Sasuke I know can still face everything bravely. So, I like Sasuke the most. Sakura has never concealed her feelings for Sasuke. At the beginning, Sakura was just like Ino. In fact, she was very curious about this handsome classmate. Under a sense of competition with her friends, Sakura began to want to get close to Sasuke and understand Sasuke. If she really liked a person for so many years, how could Sakura not understand everything that happened to Sasuke? Although because of the deliberate cover-up by the senior management of Woodleaf, Sakura was not so clear about what happened to Sasuke. But Sakura knew that Sasuke lost his family, his clan, and everything he was familiar with since childhood overnight. Putting herself in other people's shoes, Sakura felt that if she encountered such a thing, she didn't know when she would have completely lost her mind. Sasuke, on the other hand, resisted such grief. Although he hid his true feelings and turned into a cold face, Sakura felt that she liked this strong boy more and more. Now do you still have a trace of the Sasuke I like? You completely indulged your desire to destroy and reduced yourself to a beast. When you cause harm to others, don't you also cut your own humanity piece by piece? Although we are ninjas, we have to be human first. No matter what happens, I only beg that the Sasuke I know can reappear in front of me, okay? Looking at Sasuke, Sakura abandoned the original girl's reserve and shyness, and described all her feelings one by one. When she asked the last question, Sakura's voice was replaced by choking. Tears rolled out of her eyes and flowed on her face that became dirty because of the battle. Sasuke didn't speak, he just put his hand on Sakura's face and wiped away the tears on Sakura's face. His eyes, which were originally filled with frenzied emotions, became clear at this moment. Sasuke's mouth opened again and again, but there was no way to say any words. Although they didn't speak, there was an inexplicable agreement between the two, as if everything was clear in their hearts. Sasuke seemed to think of something, his eyes flashed with a trace of struggle, and he took back his hand that was on Sakura's face. Turning around to restrain his emotions, he coldly spoke to Zack and his two other party members who had both his hands crippled by him. Get lost. Tos and Jean seemed to have been pardoned, their eyes were full of excitement. The two of them picked up their teammate who had fainted on the ground and immediately left this place. Sakura saw that the three of them had gone far, and immediately turned her eyes to Sasuke, as if she had some questions to ask Sasuke. But Sasuke turned his head and glanced at Sakura, and his body softened and fell directly to the ground. Chapter 287. In the place where the Umbu team was hiding, Nangongja and Enko stood together, watching what happened between Sakura, Sasuke, and the Sound Ninja. With Enko and Nangongja's hearing, the conversation between the children could still be heard clearly. Enko looked at Sakura and Sasuke, who fell to the ground, with a dull face, and muttered to herself, "Are the children now so powerful? How old are they to confess like this? Oh my God! If I had such courage back then, I wouldn't have been a leftover woman for so long." Although she was muttering to herself, Nangongja was so close to Enko after all, so he heard it clearly. Seeing Enko's dull face, with a slightly envious look, Nangongja couldn't help but cast a very strange look at Enko. Such a person who was trained by a person like Orochimaru, how could he still have such feelings of yearning? Enko obviously felt Nangongja's strange look, and also looked back at Nangongja, as if saying to Nangongja, although this girl's personality is a bit special, who isn't a girl who yearns for love? Nangongja himself wasn't so familiar with Anko. This involved personal emotional issues. Nangongja didn't have any position and experience to talk to Anko, so he still put away his gaze. At the same time, Red Bean secretly decided to seal away all the romance novels she had collected. It was all Red's fault for recommending these books to her, causing her to become like this. She was actually mocked by someone she wasn't that familiar with. Nangongja asked seriously while Red Bean was still indulging in her imagination. Nangongja asked Red Bean seriously, "Are those black lines on Uchiha Sasuke's body the curse seal you mentioned?" Red Bean also knew that now was not the time to let her imagination run wild, so she replied to Nangongja with a serious expression. "Indeed, that is the curse seal. I was originally Orochimaru's disciple, and Orochimaru once injected such a curse seal into my body. But the curse seal on Uchiha Sasuke's body is still somewhat different from the curse seal on my body. Obviously, Orochimaru has perfected the curse seal a lot over the years." With that, Anko also covered her neck with her hand, as if she could feel the original pain now. Why was Sasuke's mental state so strange just now? I also taught Sasuke. Although this child's character has some problems, he can't reach the point of madness just now. Is this also because of the so-called curse seal? Nangongja seemed to remember Sasuke's out-of-control appearance just now, and said his speculation to Anko. Anko also nodded in surprise, looking at Nangongja, who was not familiar with the curse seal, but guessed the characteristics of the curse seal. "Indeed, in fact, Woodleaf has been studying the curse seal on my body for so many years. After all, the curse seal is not only a physical burden for me, but also a mental burden. But whether it is the curse seal on my body or the improved version of the curse seal on Sasuke, after the outbreak, there will be a special chakra wandering around the body. This kind of chakra not only strengthens a person's body, but also causes a certain degree of stimulation to the brain. It makes a person's inner negative emotions erupt in a large number. Sasuke's experience must have accumulated a lot of negative emotions, so it is normal for such a loss of control to occur." Anko's answer was very pertinent, which also explained why Sasuke could recover under Sakura's words. His body was filled with negative emotions. When Sakura said such words to Sasuke, it was tantamount to tearing a hole in the darkness of Sasuke's heart, allowing Sasuke to recover his consciousness. After the commotion was over, the second round of the exam was back on track. Sasuke and Naruto also woke up one after another. After some bumps, the three of them finally walked to the center of the Forest of Death with 2 scrolls. Of course, Nangongja was also there to welcome all the ninjas who passed the second exam, watching them enter the tower one by one with the scrolls they collected. Unsurprisingly, Kabuto didn't appear among the people who passed. Obviously, he had found an opportunity to hide himself. After that, it was naturally because the number of people who passed the second exam exceeded expectations. Under the invigilation of Hayate Gecko, a group of genin began to compete for the quota of the third exam. Nangongja didn't pay attention to these genin. After all, these people's battles weren't worth the attention of a ninja like Nangongja. Except for the guidance of each team and the team leader ninja sent by each village, almost no one cares about the battle between genin. When Nangongja looked around at all the ninjas present, he didn't find anything special, so his interest was pitiful. After the end of his battle, Sasuke, accompanied by Kakashi, also carried out a seal on his body to a certain extent. Outside the original 3 tomo-shaped curse seals, there was a circle of runes forming a seal. But to be honest, for Orochimaru's meticulously studied curse seals, such a seal was just a layer of paper insurance. The qualifier ended quickly, and the list of people who passed was quickly announced. Uzumaki Naruto, Hyuga Neji, Uchiha Sasuke, Nara Shikamaru, Haruno Sakura, and Aburame Shino officially entered the third exam as Woodleaf ninjas. Temari, Gaara, and Kankuro officially entered the third exam as Sand ninjas. Toth from Sound Ninja became the only ninja who didn't come from any of the 5 major villages to enter the 3rd exam. To be honest, Nangongja was a little surprised that Sakura and Toth could enter the last round of the exam. Sakura's opponent was her best friend, one of the successors of Ino Shikacho, Ino Yamanaka. In the face of Ino's spiritual ninjutsu attack, Sakura showed her tenacity, and under Nangongja's training, her taijutsu became very powerful, which also laid the cornerstone of Sakura's victory. As for Toth, it was entirely because of Akimichi Choji's abnormal performance that he smoothly entered the 3rd exam. At this point, the 2nd exam officially ended. Chapter 288. After the end of the qualifiers, the ninjas who passed were naturally happy. But for them, this is just the beginning. Because there will be a more important 3rd official exam that will determine whether they can become a ninja or not, every ninja who participated in the exam was reminded by their instructor or teacher about the importance of the 3rd exam. Standing on the 2nd floor of the central tower, the Sand Ninja's teacher, Baki, was frowning at this moment. He seemed to be thinking about the 3rd exam, but who knows what he was thinking about. Tosu, who was qualified for the 3rd exam, looked around with a blank face because Otogekyur didn't have a teacher to come to the central tower to see who passed smoothly. But no one cared about why no one from Otogekyur was here to watch. After all, although the Chunin exam was taken by 6 countries together, the real protagonists were the 2 major ninja villages, Woodleaf and Sand Ninja. On the contrary, the ninja from Kyuzugakyur, who was thought to be a dark horse, didn't qualify for the 3rd exam, which was very surprising. Nangongja has been looking at the red-haired girl among the ninja from Kyuzugakyur. This is the girl that Watergate is very concerned about, Uzumaki Karen, who is likely to be the orphan of the Uzumaki clan. Soon, the 4th Hokage Minato announced the official end of the qualifiers, and announced the schedule of the 3rd Chunin exam, as well as the order of the participants. All the ninjas in the tower dispersed in an uproar. On the contrary, a man in a black robe, who had been standing behind Watergate, slowly walked toward the direction where the ninjas from Kyuzugakyur gathered. Along with him were the Umbu who belonged to Watergate. When the team leader of Kyuzugakyur saw the people from Woodleaf walking toward him, he was still wary and surprised. After all, such a big ninja village suddenly sent such a group of people toward him. Anyone would be faintly on guard. But when the Umbu whispered to the team leader of Kyuzugakyur, he could only nod and then look at the girl in his team with a pitiful look. She obviously suffered a lot and looked a little timid. Karen looked at her team leader. There was no resentment in her eyes after being abandoned. Instead, there was a feeling of relief. In Kyuzugakyur, Karen has always been a dispensable character. The reason why Karen can come to Woodleaf to participate in such a grand Chunin exam is actually because Karen's 2 teammates are particularly excellent. In order to ensure the integrity of the 3-person team, Kyuzugakyur brought such a girl who only knows a little sealing technique and has no combat power to Woodleaf. Now, Konoha's Umbu obviously came for this dispensable girl. Konoha's Umbu didn't have any outstanding performance, so Konoha wouldn't have a conflict with a big ninja like Konoha. Although she didn't care that she was abandoned by Kyuzugakyur, Karen still had a trace of fear in her heart. After all, a powerful force like Woodleaf was eyeing her, and they didn't even hesitate to bear the possibility of conflict between her and Kyuzugakyur's alliance. This made Karen begin to reflect on what she has that Woodleaf is eyeing. Could it be the special ability that he has been hiding all this time? But just for such an ability, would Konoha really covet it to this point? Karen followed Woodleaf's Umbu to a secret room in the central tower with fear, but one of Karen's hands was behind her back. Although Karen doesn't think that she can compete with Woodleaf's Umbu, once she finds out that something is wrong, although Karen doesn't think that she can compete with Woodleaf's Umbu, she can still slit her neck to avoid humiliation. The man who had been wearing a black robe and hadn't spoken a word waved his hand. Several dark ops respectfully saluted and immediately retreated. Seeing that everyone had walked out, the black-robed man finally opened his mouth to speak. "Hello. Karen, unlike Karen's imagination, the man shrouded in the black robe is not a disgusting uncle, but has a very beautiful voice. This is a woman with a very outstanding life. As a ninja, the most basic ability to observe people's expressions, Karen instantly labeled the person opposite her in her heart. You are? Karen was very frightened and uneasy, but at this moment, she doesn't know why, but a voice in her heart told her that she can completely relax in front of this person. This strange feeling made Karen feel that the person in front of her wasn't someone who could threaten her life. Instead, she felt more like a close relative that she was very familiar with. The black-robed woman standing in front of Karen also reached out with her slender hand to remove the black hood covering her face. The first thing that was revealed was a head of long red hair. Karen looked at the long red hair and felt so familiar, because Karen also has such long red hair. Not only the color, but also the luster and texture made Karen feel that this long hair is the same as her own. The feeling of closeness in her heart became more and more intense with the smile on the face of the woman opposite her, making Karen even have the impulse to call her mother. I am your relative. I am a descendant of the Uzumaki clan. My name is Uzumaki Shinakushina. That's right, standing in front of Karen is Wood Leaf's fourth Hokage, Watergate's wife, Uzumaki Naruto's mother, Uzumaki Shinakushina. Even Nangongja didn't expect that just after he gave such a suggestion to Watergate, Shinakushina directly appeared in the second exam, and even immediately found Karen after the exam. Hearing the name Shinakushina, Karen was stunned for a while. Uzumaki. An indescribable sadness surged from Karen's heart, as if a wanderer who left home finally returned to his hometown. The attachment and sense of belonging from the bloodline filled Karen's heart, and Karen's body uncontrollably walked towards Shinakushina step by step, and the eyes hidden behind the glasses were also covered with a layer of mist. Chapter 289. Shinakushina herself is a mother. When she saw Karen's tearful appearance, the motherly feeling in her heart instantly surged to her heart. Shinakushina thought of the difficult situation when she and Naruto were young. At that time, it was so difficult for her to raise Naruto alone. The girl in front of her, named Karen, seems to have parents who died very early, and she has always been bullied by other children in the village when she was in Kyusugakure. Such a girl has experienced so many sad experiences, but she still lived to the present, which made Shinakushina feel very distressed for this child. Seeing Karen slowly walking towards her, Shinakushina walked directly in front of Karen in a few steps and hugged Karen in her arms. Karen didn't expect that the person opposite her would hold her in her arms directly. According to her usual character, she would push this person away directly, but Karen didn't have such an idea at all. Instead, she buried her head deeply in Shinakushina's arms, and didn't want to break free at all. In the original manga, Karen was directly loyal to Sasuke just because she was saved by Sasuke from a bear. No matter how Sasuke treated her, she never left him. It's not only because of a girl's attachment to Sasuke, but more importantly, because Karen has always been in a situation where she lacks someone to love her. When Sasuke simply gave a helping hand, Karen's affection for Sasuke soared in her heart. Compared to Sasuke, who has no blood relationship with her, Shinakushina, who has a blood connection with her and is full of motherly brilliance, that kind of attachment is simply beyond anything. Mom, Karen seemed to be intoxicated in a dream that was difficult to break free from, and she murmured to herself. Shinakushina was also very surprised by Karen's reaction, but in a flash, she understood Karen's mentality. Such a child who has suffered so much neglect was comforted by Shinakushina at this moment. It was completely understandable that she would call out like this. Therefore, Shinakushina also put her hand on Karen's head, slowly stroking the red hair that was similar to her own hair, and said very gently to Karen, "Good, child. Mom is here, don't be afraid of anything." In fact, Karen was also aware of her address. Calling out to Shinakushina like this also made Karen feel very scared. She was afraid that Shinakushina would say something to her that might hurt her heart. But Shina Kushina's response made Karen's heart closer to Shina Kushina. Her heart, which had been tightly shut, opened up in an instant. Mom. 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 As if confirming, Karen shouted again and again. The more she shouted, the more tears in Karen's eyes. In the end, her small face was full of tears. Shina Kushina wasn't impatient at all. She just responded, and her hand slowly stroked Karen's head and back, trying to make Karen feel comforted. Naruto looked at Watergate, who was sitting opposite him. His expression wasn't so good. After all, Naruto still had some conflict with his father in his heart. Watergate, who was sitting opposite Naruto, was very uncomfortable being looked at by Naruto like this. After all, this was his child. But being looked at with such hostility, no matter how optimistic Watergate was, it was still very uncomfortable. But Naruto still didn't understand his father's thoughts. He just put on a cold face and said to Watergate with a strange tone. "Aren't you so busy as Hokage today? He actually went home during the day. That's really rare." Watergate heard such words and didn't know how to answer. He could only scratch his head and say to Naruto. "Shina Kushina seems to have something important to announce, so she asked me to go home quickly. Counting the time, we should be home soon." Naruto heard that it was his mother's arrangement and didn't say much. There was no more conversation between the two, and the entire living room was shrouded in an awkward atmosphere. But this awkwardness didn't last long. Soon the sound of the key opening the door clearly appeared in the ears of the two. Knowing that their mother and wife had returned home, Naruto and Watergate also walked near the entrance, ready to welcome Shina Kushina home. The door was quickly opened. Shina Kushina saw Watergate and Naruto and said kindly, "I'm back," but Watergate and Naruto didn't look at Shina Kushina. Instead, they looked at a girl with conspicuous long red hair behind Shina Kushina. "Shina Kushina. You are?" Naruto didn't know Karen, but Watergate knew this child. Although he did let his wife contact this child who was also of the Uzumaki bloodline, he didn't expect Shina Kushina to bring Karen directly to his home. And Karen seemed to feel that Watergate and Naruto didn't like her, and she also seemed to faintly know the identity of Watergate. She also shrank her body behind Shina Kushina and said to Shina Kushina timidly, "Mom." Hearing such a title, Watergate and Naruto's eyes widened as if they hadn't reacted yet. And seeing the appearance of Naruto and Watergate, Shina Kushina's fiery temper was also directly displayed. Her long hair fluttered without wind, and she said to Naruto and Watergate, "What's wrong? You don't like it? From now on, Karen is my daughter, the child of Minato and Watergate, and also the elder sister of Uzumaki and Naruto. Do you understand?" Although Shina Kushina had turned into the state of a blood-red pepper, Naruto and Watergate still didn't seem to have recovered from the shock. They still looked a little silly. Shina Kushina's forehead directly appeared with a big 2 character. Obviously, she was angered by the attitude of the two. She raised her voice and shouted at Watergate and Naruto, "Do you understand?" Watergate reacted faster than Naruto. He said to Shina Kushina with a difficult expression, "After all, this child is an official ninja of Kyuzugakure." Suddenly, she was stopped by Woodleaf and even became the adopted daughter of Hokage. Isn't it a bit, not good? Shina Kushina glared at Watergate, then said, "That's your problem. From now on, Karen is my daughter. No matter what you do, Karen will never leave Woodleaf." After saying that, she directly took Karen's hand and led her into the house. Chapter 290. For Watergate, this period of time is indeed a bit of a headache. After all, Woodleaf has to face the attack of Tsunegakure, Orochimaru, and possibly even Akatsuki. And even inside Woodleaf, Danzo, this old guy, may have some bad ideas. But for the reputation and majesty of Woodleaf, Watergate can't suspend the Chunin exam, which will gather a lot of important tasks. These days, Watergate has been trying his best to win over all forces that may help him and carry out various transactions with these families that value their own interests. This has already put a lot of pressure on Watergate, and now his wife wants him to take a registered ninja of Kyuzugakure as his adopted daughter. Watergate's head is about to explode, but in the face of his wife's request, Watergate has no way to refuse. There is no way, he can only find ways to solve these problems by himself. Naruto, on the other hand, was even more dumbfounded. How did he get such a cheap sister without knowing it? And looking at Karen's appearance, she is too similar to his mother. They both have red hair, and although her personality seems to be a little timid, Naruto always faintly felt that this girl named Karen may have the same violent genes as his mother. I say. Is this still an orphan of Kyuzugakure? No matter how you look at it, her relationship with his mother is too close. Naruto turned his eyes to his father, and his heart was not without malice, wondering whether this girl is his mother's illegitimate daughter. Naruto's strange eyes were completely seen by Watergate. Watergate, who was very impatient, really exploded at this moment. Without the original feeling of guilt for his son, Watergate directly punched Naruto's head. The huge force directly made Naruto's eyes become teary, and he looked at his mother for help. Shina Kushina saw Watergate suddenly punching her son's head, and was instantly unhappy. Just as she was about to say something, she was directly interrupted by her husband. I will go to the Hokage's office and communicate with the team leader of Kyuzugakure Ninja. If I can't make Karen our daughter, I won't come back. His words were sonorous, and directly let Shina Kushina see his determination. After seeing Watergate's serious expression, Shina Kushina was also very happy. Shina Kushina knew the current situation of Woodleaf. She also knew that if she brought a Kyuzugakure ninja like Karen to her house and became Hokage's adopted daughter, not only would she be opposed by Kyuzugakure ninja, but it was also likely that the group of old guys in Woodleaf would also come out to protest. However, Watergate still took this matter, and even said such harsh words. The matter of her son being punched was directly thrown to the back of her mind, and she even happily ran to Watergate's side and kissed Watergate. Naruto originally thought that he understood his mother enough to see his mother teach Watergate a lesson, but when he saw his mother kissing Watergate, he directly saw Shina Kushina kissing Watergate. He could only look at his mother with a sad face, as if he wanted to remind his mother that he was just abused. However, Shina Kushina directly ignored Naruto's gaze. Instead, she kindly pulled Karen to the second floor of the house, as if she was going to find a room for Karen to use as her bedroom. She even seemed to be preparing to take Karen to Woodleaf's commercial street to buy some clothes and daily necessities for Karen. In contrast, Naruto was simply picked up. In Nangongja's house, Sakura came to visit. Even Yabi came with her daughter, and they even carried a lot of gifts in their hands. Obviously, they had something to ask. Of course, Nangongja couldn't not give face to Yabuki, who took care of him a lot. He also kindly welcomed Sakura and Yabi into his house and prepared tea for them. The three of them sat in the living room of Nangongja's house. Sakura looked at Nangongja and hesitated for a long time, but she didn't say anything. Yabi saw her daughter dilly-dallying and said to Nangongja with a smile on her face, "She is becoming more and more powerful. He is already a senior jonin in Woodleaf. Even Sakura's current guidance can't be compared to Zha's. I also heard that Zha often goes to the Hokage's office. It seems that he has a good relationship with Yondaime Hokage, right?" Nangongja suddenly heard Yabuki's flattering conversation with him, and for a moment, he couldn't react. He could only quickly and humbly say to Yabi, "You flatter me, everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses. Kakashi is an excellent ninja, and his mastery of ninjutsu is also very profound. If I really have a life and death duel with Kakashi, I can't say that I can win against Kakashi." In Yabi's ears, Nangongja's humble words were naturally spoken by Nangongja. However, Nangongja knew that if he really had a life and death duel with Kakashi, although the possibility of winning was very high, he still had some scruples about Kakashi. In Nangongja's heart, he faintly felt that Kakashi had actually been holding back. Actually, this time I came with Sakura to ask you something. I just don't know if you have time. After all, Hokage-sama should have given you a task, right? Yabi knew that if she and Nangongja continued to flatter and be humble, who knows when they would end. Taking advantage of her relatively close relationship with Nangongja, Yabi also directly tested Nangongja. When Yabi's words came out, Nangongja's face also became serious, and he seemed to be a little unhappy as he said to Yabi, "Yabuki, you're wrong. Although my strength has indeed improved a little over the years, I'm still the Yabuki that you took care of when I first came to Woodleaf. No matter what it is, Yabuki can directly tell me, as long as I can do it, I will naturally not refuse." After hearing Nangongja's words, Yabi also relaxed and said to Nangongja, "Sakura was lucky during the Chunin exam and entered the third round. I think that since Sakura can enter the final round of the Chunin exam at this age, naturally, she can't give up such an opportunity. There is still some time before the third round of the Chunin exam. I was wondering if you could spare some time to guide Sakura and give her a little more possibility of becoming a Chunin." Chapter 291. Hearing Yachue's words, Nangongja also understood what she meant. All parents in the world are worried about their children. Originally, Yachue and Nangongja had a sibling relationship, and they had never asked each other for help for their own matters. This has a lot to do with the character of Nangongja and Yachue. Nangongja himself is a very stubborn person. When he encounters trouble, he will first think about how to solve it with his own efforts. Although Yachue was a woman, and she wasn't a ninja, she relied on her own strength to support her own clothing store in Konoha, and she has always been very strong. But such a woman is now begging him for her daughter. Although Nangongja has a variety of troubles to solve during this time because of Watergate, most of the things are on the right track, and Nangongja doesn't need to participate more. Dealing with Danzo is a big matter. Although there is a certain amount of evidence, it is not enough to directly overthrow Danzo. Unless Danzo is caught in the act, there is no threat to Danzo at all. Originally, Danzo and the Hokage clan have reached the point where they have not openly fallen out with each other. The three generations have a lot of information about Danzo, but they still let Danzo live well. This also proves that it is difficult to overthrow Danzo. Therefore, for Nangongja, there is still a certain amount of leisure time. It is not difficult for him to agree to Yachue's request to guide Sakura. As long as he talks to Watergate, he believes that Watergate will not refuse such a request. After thinking about these things, Nangongja also had a little smile on his face and said to Yachue, "I thought it was something, isn't it just to guide Sakura? I watched Sakura grow up. For me, Sakura is no different from my own nephew. Kakashi, because of his relationship with the Uchiha clan, will definitely train Sasuke, and Naruto, his father, will take care of him. Only Sakura has no one to help guide her. I naturally have to take this responsibility. We are all ninjas of Team 7, we can't let others look down on our Sakura, right?" Nangongja's words directly placed Xiaoying in the same position as his family. These words naturally made you feel exceptionally comfortable when she heard them. Xiaoying also suppressed the obvious anxiety on her face and relaxed a little. She was not worried at all. She was worried that Nangongja's family would be in the same position as Xiaoying. "Zhe is right, we can't let others look down on our Sakura. Then I will leave Sakura's matter to you. I will go pack up Sakura's luggage and send it back later. During this time, Sakura, you don't have to come back. Just stay at your Uncle Nangong's house and let your Uncle Nangong teach you well." Yachue followed Nangongja's words and said such words to her daughter. Hearing her mother actually let her live directly in Nangongja's house, Sakura, as a girl who already understood some differences between men and women, was actually somewhat conflicted, but in order to get closer to Naruto and Sasuke, Sakura also forcibly cleaned up her mind. After all, Nangongja was her uncle, and it was understandable for her to live in her uncle's house for a while, right? So Sakura also nodded and agreed with her mother's statement. Nangongja knew that this matter had been settled. After watching Yichui leave his house, Nangongja also began to think about how he wanted Sakura to grow her strength during this time. Although Nangongja also knew about Sakura's training when he was in the Wave Country, he still had a certain understanding of Sakura's overall quality. But after all, it was not an actual fight, so Nangongja actually had some doubts about Sakura's specific situation. There was no way, he could only walk in front of Sakura and said to Sakura, "Sakura, although I know that Yabuki must have given you a lot of expectations for the Chunin exam, expectations are also an unbearable pressure, making it impossible for a person to exert their full strength. The Chunin exam is not a test of a person's combat ability, but a person's overall quality as a ninja. As long as you show the qualities a ninja should have when fighting against the opponent, even if you lose in the first round, you can still become a Chunin in the end. So, I hope you can put all the distracting thoughts aside. Carefully consider where your advantages are and where you can make full use of your advantages. Don't just pursue improving your strength and live to learn more powerful ninjutsu. Do you understand what I mean?" Nangongja's words were very honest, because in fact, it was only a short period of time before the Chunin exam. It was very difficult to make Sakura have a qualitative leap in combat strength. What Nangongja can teach her is to make her fully aware of her advantages, so that she can fully show her qualities in the Chunin exam. Sakura herself was a smart child. When she heard Nangongja's words, she naturally understood what Nangongja meant. She sat on the wooden corridor on the side of Nangongja's courtyard, frowning slightly. It seemed that she was carefully analyzing where her advantages were. Nangongja also looked at Sakura's tangled appearance and didn't disturb her. Nangongja actually knew where Sakura's advantages were, but some things can only be remembered by oneself. If Nangongja opened his mouth to analyze Sakura because he wanted her to understand him as soon as possible, although it seems to be a good thing in the short term, it is not conducive to Sakura's future development. Time passed by little, the sun in the sky had now turned into the sunset. For nearly an afternoon, Sakura has been thinking about her performance in all the battles she has been fighting. Whether it was the sound of Nangongja's footsteps or the passage of time, Sakura didn't care about it in her heart. Just when the sun was about to completely set, a beam of light passed through the burning clouds in the sky and shone on Sakura's face. With a little gentle sunlight, it was like a key that unlocked the shackles of her future in front of Sakura. Sakura's thoughts returned to the time when she learned to climb trees under the guidance of Nangongja. At that time, she was able to learn how to climb trees quickly, even faster than Naruto and Sasuke. What did she rely on? Her control of chakra. Chapter 292. Sakura's originally gloomy expression became full of vitality at this moment. Although Nangongja seemed to be minding his own business, he was actually paying attention to Sakura's situation. When he found that Sakura seemed to understand her advantage, he also squatted beside Sakura with a gratified smile. "How is it, have you thought it through?" Hearing Nangongja's words, Sakura didn't know when her uncle squatted beside her. She raised her small face and nodded excitedly at Nangongja. Nangongja smiled and placed his hand on top of Xiao Ying's head. He then stood up and walked into his courtyard before he said to Xiao Ying, "You're right. I think you have also discovered that your advantage is your fine control of chakra. For traditional ninjas, chakra is the most important foundation for their strength. Some people have a great accumulation of chakra, such as Naruto. Some people have a great flexibility in using their chakra on ninjutsu, such as Sasuke. And you are the last type, that is, you have a fine control of your chakra. Among Konoha's most famous sannin, there is also a person with similar qualifications as you. She is the descendant of Konoha's Senju clan, Tsunade, known as Tsunade Haim. She honed her control of chakra to the point of perfection, and invented a technique called monstrous strength. I once fought with Tsunade-sama on the same battlefield during the Shinobi World War. At that time, I also saw how terrifying Tsunade-sama's monstrous strength technique was. But because monstrous strength is Tsunade-sama's technique, I have no way to fully understand its mystery. But over the years, I gradually discovered a technique that is similar to the monstrous strength, and I call it one-inch punch. When Nangongja was talking to Sakura, Nangongja noticed that Sakura's eyes were getting more and more confused. She didn't have any special reaction when she heard Tsunade's name. Nangongja knew that Wood Leaf Ninja School didn't have any basic knowledge for such strong ninjas. Speaking of which, when they were in the Forest of Death, Team 7 was attacked by Orochimaru. Orochimaru didn't hide his identity at all. He used a variety of iconic ninjutsu, and even showed his face to these ninjas. But whether it was Sasuke, Naruto, or Sakura, they seemed to have never heard of Orochimaru's reputation as one of the Sannin. Well, it's time for me to talk to Watergate and ask the ninja school to teach the students the most basic ninja courses. It's not enough to just learn some theories, Nangongja murmured to himself, and then explained to Sakura about Tsunade's position. After talking for a long time, Sakura finally figured out Tsunade's position in Konoha. Then she blinked her bright eyes and looked at Nangongja. She wanted to learn the one-inch punch that Nangongja just said had the same effect as monstrous strength. Walking to the middle of the courtyard, Nangongja slightly posed a more casual starting position. His body was slightly squatted, one hand was clenched and placed on his waist, and the other hand was placed in front of his body like a palm, with the fingertips facing forward. Whether it's monstrous strength or one-inch punch, it's actually a technique to compress strength. It's just that monstrous strength is a technique to compress chakra, and one-inch punch is a technique to compress your own body strength. Stomp the ground, twist the waist, deliver the punch, and push the shoulder. When you're not familiar with one-inch punch, you have to follow this order to exert strength. While talking, Nangongja also started to demonstrate to Sakura according to the order he just mentioned. His whole body looked loose, and even the fingers of his palm were not close together. But the moment Nangongja achieved the shoulder punch, his originally loose palm seemed to involuntarily clenched under the force of his own body, and he threw a punch in front of himself. A very clear sound of air exploding appeared in Sakura's ears. When the little girl was studying in the ninja school, the teachers would basically only let her do some very inefficient physical training and teach her some of the most basic fighting routines. The ninja school wouldn't teach such a relatively secret method of exerting force, nor could they teach her anything. Now that she saw Nangongja's exquisite method of exerting strength, Sakura quickly understood the mystery of it. "Uncle, this method of exerting strength seems to be very suitable for girls." Seeing that Sakura actually saw the mystery of it, Nangongja also felt that it was the right choice to teach Sakura this kind of technique. Maybe in the hands of Sakura, this kind of little technique can play a great role. Indeed, for girls, this kind of technique is extremely suitable. In terms of body structure, the strength of women is inferior to men, but women also have a high degree of control in some more subtle areas. And one-inch punch, this kind of technique, is to gather the strength of the whole body, and then use it in an instant. Women are indeed more suitable. At the beginning, I originally planned to teach this kind of technique to your sisters, but little Linger prefers to use ninjutsu, your Roar Neisan has her own boxing routine, and your Mashiro Neisan doesn't seem to be interested at all. It can't be helped, this technique has always been in my heart, and it didn't come in handy. But I feel that Sakura, you will be able to flexibly use this technique in your own battle. You can even do it better than me. Even if you don't have as many steps as I just said, you can still use one-inch punch, based on your own understanding. Not only on your fist, you can use this technique in many other places. Sakura suddenly heard Nangongja's expectations, and she was very happy. When a person can get the approval of others, that kind of happy expression is difficult to hide. Uncle Nangong, I know. I will practice well and not let you down. In the third exam soon, I will also let Naruto and Sasuke see that I can also become stronger. If they slack off, maybe I will walk in front of them. Chapter 293. Hearing Sakura's childish words, Nangongja actually wanted to see everyone's expression when they see Sakura's strength increase and become the next Tsunade Hime. After calling Sakura to his side, Nangongja taught Sakura the specific techniques of one-inch punch little by little. He also taught Sakura how to compress Tsunade's monstrous strength, and how to compress chakra. Although the utilization of chakra is weaker than the original version of a monstrous strength, it's still valuable. Naruto looked at the special Jonin in front of him, who was sent by his father to guide him. He wore round sunglasses and a bandana on his head. He was called Woodleaf Ebisu, and he had a look of disgust on his face. Naruto had seen Ebisu before. He was the grandson of the 3 generations Hokage, and the tutor of his younger brother Woodleaf Maru. Whether it was his special Jonin, Kakashi, or his father, they all seemed to recognize this person's ability to teach ninjas, and they even praised him a lot. However, Naruto felt that the person in front of him was simply a big pervert. When he saw Woodleaf Maru's seduction technique, he had the most nosebleeds. Such a person really made Naruto have no respect for him. Since he knew that Kakashi took Sasuke to train, Naruto was actually preparing to train with his uncle Nangong. However, Watergate told Naruto that Nangongja was working hard to train Haruno Sakura, so Watergate found Ebisu to teach his son. Maybe he thought that since Ebisu was able to deal with Woodleaf Maru, then he naturally had the means to deal with his big brat. Seeing Ebisu standing in front of him and bragging about his strength from time to time, Naruto impatiently dug his ears with his fingers, then stretched out his hand and waved it in front of Ebisu. Seeing Naruto's action, Ebisu thought that Naruto wanted to ask him some questions, so he adjusted his black sunglasses and said to Naruto, "I'm sorry, but I don't know what to do." "Naruto-kun, do you have something to ask me? As long as it's about training, I can guide you." Naruto rubbed his hands a little embarrassedly and said to Ebisu, "It's like this, I have a ninjutsu that I've been practicing for a long time, but I feel like I'm still lacking something. I hope Sensei can help me improve my ninjutsu." Ebisu also had some information about Naruto, and he knew that Naruto used Woodleaf's shadow clone jutsu the most. Ebisu actually had his own opinions on this ninjutsu, so when he heard Naruto's question, he assumed that Naruto wanted to ask him about the shadow clone jutsu, so he said to Naruto, "Do you want to ask about the shadow clone jutsu? Sensei has studied this technique carefully, and I found that he has a high requirement for the amount of chakra a person has. If you're not careful, you'll waste a lot of chakra, so you can." Looking at Ebisu who was still talking, Naruto didn't care about what Ebisu said. He just made a hand seal and began to mobilize the chakra in his body, then he shouted, "Watch my secret ninjutsu, seduction jutsu." The smoke rose, and Naruto's playful, seduction jutsu, was launched. The sight of the naked woman shrouded in smoke was too stimulating for an old virgin like Ebisu. His nose started to bleed as he muttered to himself, "Ha ha ha, I'm not going to let you go. I'm going to kill you." Woodleaf Maru's ninjutsu. Was it invented by Yondaime Hokage's son? How did the descendants of Woodleaf Hokage become like this? Woodleaf Maru's future is worrying. Then, because of excessive blood loss, his vision turned black and he fainted. Naruto saw that Ebisu became like this, and he was very proud of himself. He even couldn't help but think that if he used this technique in front of his uncle Nangong, he might not be able to withstand it. Thinking about it is really exciting. This is a death that must be done. Just when Naruto was still feeling proud of himself, a man with long white hair wearing a red jacket came out of the bushes. He had a serious expression on his face, but there was an unconcealable desire in his eyes. "Hey, hey, hey. That little brat with golden hair and a beard, stop right there." Naruto heard someone calling him from behind. He turned around and saw Jiraiya standing behind him. He asked with some doubt, "You are?" The person in front of him looked very familiar, as if he had seen him somewhere before. Naruto felt very strange. Me? Good question. I am the Toad Spirit of Mount Myaboku, Jiraiya, also known as Toad Sage. Ah, join me. The strange self-introduction made Naruto's head dizzy. How can a person's name be so long? This was the first time he saw such a name. Naruto tried to repeat Jiraiya's name. Mount Myaboku. Mount Myaboku. Toad. 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 Listening to Naruto's stuttering words, Jiraiya, who originally thought that his appearance was very cool, said to Naruto with some disgust, "You're right. Aya. You can just call me Immortal Toad." Naruto nodded stupidly, but the disgust in Jiraiya's eyes was clearly seen by Naruto. With a certain deliberate nature, Naruto pointed to Jiraiya's nose and said, "Jiraiya. Lecherous Sage." When Jiraiya heard such a name, he instantly felt embarrassed, but he still corrected Naruto with a good temper. "It's Toad Sage. Toad Sage. Okay, Lecherous Sage. I said, don't you understand? I'm talking about Toad Sage. I heard it very clearly, it's Lecherous Sage, right Lecherous Sage?" The two were like children. They talked for a long time. In the end, Jiraiya was defeated and acquiesced to Naruto calling him Toad Sage. But then Jiraiya's expression turned serious. He pretended to be serious and said to Naruto, "Ebisu is a famous tutor in Woodleaf. You're not satisfied with him. How about I train you? Looking at you, you should be a candidate for the Chunin exam. You will suffer if you don't have a good teacher to train you." Chapter 294. Naruto didn't live a carefree life since he was a child, and his heart was extremely sensitive. That's why when Minato arranged a ninja like Ebisu to be Naruto's teacher, Naruto's resistance was so strong. But the white-haired man in front of him made Naruto's heart relax, so when Naruto heard Jiraiya's words, he also faintly agreed. "Have you practiced climbing trees with chakra?" Jiraiya seemed to think of something and asked Naruto. Hearing Jiraiya's words, Naruto also nodded and said to Jiraiya, "Yes. Although the progress at that time wasn't so smooth, I can still climb trees with chakra." Hearing Naruto's answer, Jiraiya nodded and then said, "That's good, since you have such a foundation, then I can teach you the next stage of chakra control. Watch." With that said, Jiraiya walked to the shore of a pool next to the two, then stepped directly into the pool with one foot. But the foot that stepped out was not submerged in the water, but stood directly on the surface of the water. Standing on the water, Jiraiya looked at Naruto who was standing on the shore and said, "The next stage of climbing trees is stepping on the water. Compared to the tree trunk, which doesn't change in texture, the water surface will make it more difficult for people to stand on it because of its fluidity. You have to keep paying attention to the changes in the water surface under your feet. Only in this way can you successfully stand on the water surface. Come on. Give it a try." With that, he waved to Naruto. Naruto also felt that standing on the water surface was very powerful, and he was eager to try standing on the water surface himself. So he stood on the shore, closed his eyes, and began to mobilize his chakra. After a while, it seemed that he was ready. Naruto stepped on the water surface with one foot. Under the effect of chakra, Naruto's foot also stepped directly on the water surface. The beginning was very good, and Naruto's heart also had more confidence. Then he stepped on the water surface with his other foot. But after a while, Naruto's body began to shake, and finally, he sat down in the water. "It's okay, don't worry. We can take it slow. This kind of training, even smart people can't complete it directly. What you need to do is to let your body remember this feeling, and then start to mobilize the right amount of chakra yourself. This requires a lot of practice." Jiraiya didn't scold him as Naruto imagined, instead, he comforted him very gently. And Naruto was a determined person. Since he encountered a problem, he naturally had to work hard to solve it, right? So Naruto also nodded and began to practice on his own. But some things can't be solved by constant effort. He tried again and again, but failed again and again. Jiraiya was also observing Naruto's practice. The experienced Jiraiya naturally saw that the reason why Naruto's control of chakra was so bad was actually because the seal in his body was loose, causing the Nine Tails chakra to mix in with his chakra. This kind of situation needs to be solved. Jiraiya's relationship with Shina Kushina and Watergate was needless to say. He was also very close to this child who was like his grandson, so Jiraiya secretly began to think about how to help Naruto. It stands to reason that he should ask Shina Kushina, because Shina Kushina was the last Nine Tails column force, but he didn't know why Shina Kushina and Watergate didn't help Naruto solve this problem, which made Jiraiya very puzzled. Naruto, come here. Looking at Naruto who had been working hard, Jiraiya waved his hand and called Naruto to his side. Naruto came to Jiraiya's side with a puzzled face and said to Jiraiya, "What's wrong?" "Lecherous sage. I'm still working hard, why are you calling me? And, where did you find out my name?" That's right, Naruto didn't introduce himself to Jiraiya before, but Jiraiya directly called out his name, which made Naruto very puzzled. Jiraiya also realized that he was exposed, but this was not a problem at all, so Jiraiya said to Naruto, "Of course I know you, otherwise, why would I help you train? My name is Jiraiya, I'm your father, Watergate's master. You are my grandson. I also heard your name from your father and mother, but this is not the point. I have something to ask you." Naruto heard Jiraiya's question and nodded, wanting to hear what Jiraiya wanted to ask him. "I want to know, do you know what is in your body?" Jiraiya asked very straightforwardly, directly asking whether Naruto knew that there was a Nine-Tails demon fox in his body. Naruto's face changed when he heard Jiraiya's words. Whether it was his mother or his father, they told him again and again not to let others know the existence of the seal in his body, but now Jiraiya directly asked, which made Naruto's vigilance soar. Naruto's face changed in Jiraiya's eyes. Jiraiya told himself that he should take out some evidence to prove his identity to Naruto, so he also took out the huge scroll that he had been holding on his waist and unfolded it for Naruto to see. This scroll is a very rare psychic scroll. Anyone who signs their name on this scroll can summon the toad psychic beast from Mount Mayabu through their blood and psychic arts. Take a look at this. With that, Jiraiya unfolded the scroll in his hand, then pointed to a name and said to Naruto, "This is the name of Yondaime Hokage Watergate. As his son, you should know what his summoned beast looks like, right? His summoning technique was taught by me, so I think this is enough to prove my identity, right?" Naruto thought about it carefully. His father, who he didn't like, seemed to really have a toad summon beast, so he dispelled his doubts about Jiraiya under the influence of a sense of identity and familiarity in his heart. But his eyes were staring at the summoned scroll in Jiraiya's hand. Naruto's wallet and pajamas were all toad patterns. It can be seen that Naruto was actually very close to toads. Now that he knew that he could summon a toad summon beast through such a scroll, Naruto naturally didn't want to give up such an opportunity, right? Chapter 295. Jiraiya saw Naruto's eyes and naturally knew that Naruto was eyeing his summoned scroll. Originally, Naruto was a very close person to him, so it's not impossible for him to sign this summoned scroll. But now, there are more important things in front of Jiraiya, and he doesn't allow Naruto to teach summon jutsu. Answer my question first, and then I'll let you sign your name on this scroll. How about it? In order to make Naruto answer his question, Jiraiya also began to use the summoned scroll of Mount Mayaboku to tempt Naruto. Naruto himself has a sense of closeness to Jiraiya, and now there's such a temptation like summon beast, Naruto won't avoid such a question. I know what's in my body. It's the strongest among the 9 tails in the shinobi world, the demon fox 9 tails, Naruto said, but Jiraiya can also see the deep sadness hidden in Naruto's eyes. As a bijou, column force is a normal thing to be ostracized. In the eyes of ordinary people, Column Force is a monster that can go crazy at any time. In the eyes of high-ranking people, Column Force is a high-end killing machine. How can such a person give Column Force the most basic respect of a human? Column Force of Sunagakure is the child of Kazekage, but he is ostracized by the people in his own village. Column Force of Kumo Shinobu is the younger brother of Reikage, but he also seems to be a little mentally unstable, playing his so-called hip-hop rap every day. Even with such an identity, he was still treated unfairly, let alone Naruto, who didn't have a father to accompany him since childhood and was raised by his mother alone. Jiraiya naturally knew the key points, so he said to Naruto, "Don't worry. I know that you actually have a sense of repulsion and disgust towards the 9 tails in your body. When you were young, there were countless heart-wrenching things that happened to you, and the root of those heartache was that there was such a tailed beast in your body. However, I hope that you can understand that the tailed beast in your body is also a part of your strength. There was no such thing as good or evil in power. As long as one could maintain a pure and kind heart, even 9 tails, who was known as evil, could exert a positive force. I also carefully observed your training just now. I think that the reason why you have such a hard time controlling your chakra is actually because the seal of the 9 tails in your body has loosened a little, causing part of the 9 tails chakra to exist in your body, causing your ability to control your chakra to deteriorate severely. I have thought of several plans for you. One is that I directly use the Fuinjutsu to strengthen the seal of the 9 tails in your body so that its chakra can't enter your body at all, but this also means that you will lose the powerful power of the 9 tails. The other way is that I help you open the seal more and let the 9 tails chakra continue to enter your body. During this time, I will try my best to teach you how to control the 9 tails chakra in your body. Of course, you can also go back and ask your mother. After all, Shina Kushina is the last 9 tails, Column Force. Her ability to control the 9 tails chakra is naturally more skillful than mine. This is the choice I gave you. Every decision should be made by yourself. I won't force you to follow my decision. No matter what plan you have, as long as you understand it in your heart, I will help you carry it out. After that, Jiraiya stopped talking. Obviously, he was waiting for Naruto to make his own decision. Naruto naturally knew that these things were related to his own interests, so he also fell into contemplation. Most of his strength actually relies on the abundant chakra in his body, but sometimes the enemy he faces can't be solved by the large amount of chakra, just like when he met Haku in the Wave Country. If he didn't have the outbreak of the 9 tails chakra, he and Sasuke would have been surrounded and killed in the magic mirror ice crystal. Although the 9 tails is the source of his pain, as Jiraiya said, the 9 tails is also the best way to improve his strength. If he doesn't take it, he will be harmed. Since he has such a huge potential, naturally, he shouldn't give it up so easily, right? After thinking carefully, Naruto also made his own decision and said to Jiraiya, "I've decided. Please help me loosen the seal and let the 9 tails chakra flow into my body. I will work hard to tame this chakra and make it my own power. I won't use this power for destruction. Even if it's a violent chakra like the 9 tails, I believe that as long as it's used properly, it can do good things." Hearing Naruto's decision, Jiraiya was actually very happy. After all, it would be a waste if such a huge power was really not used in his body. Since Naruto made such a decision, Jiraiya naturally began to prepare to help Naruto loosen the seal. "Take off your clothes and reveal your stomach." With that, Jiraiya's hand also turned into a claw in front of his body, and a cluster of chakra turned into a rising small flame at his fingertips. The seal on Naruto's stomach seemed to show its own texture because of the seal that Jiraiya was performing. Jiraiya carefully observed the nodes and found that the seal seemed to have been closed by someone. So he asked Naruto with some curiosity, "Has anyone else touched the seal on your stomach besides me?" Naruto didn't hide it. After thinking about it, he said to Jiraiya, "During the second exam of the Chunin exam, a perverted uncle who looked like a snake attacked our team, and then he pressed on my stomach, and I fainted, Orochimaru." After hearing Naruto's description, the first person Jiraiya thought of was Orochimaru, the Woodleaf rebel Nin who was originally in the same team as him. It seems that Orochimaru saw that Naruto was the Nine Tails column force at that time, and then sealed the seal on Naruto's stomach again. But it seems that he underestimated the power of the Nine Tails in Naruto's body. These days, his seal was directly broken by the Nine Tails chakra. These things have been reflected in the seal node on Naruto's stomach. Jiraiya couldn't help but feel that Watergate and Shinakushina didn't seem to have done their duty to care about Naruto. It was really not good to ignore such a thing. Chapter 296. Although he didn't quite understand why Watergate and Shinakushina would ignore his son's condition, Jiraiya didn't think too much about it. After all, as parents, Watergate and Shinakushina should have their own thoughts, right? After adjusting his mind and stabilizing the chakra flame jumping on his fingertips, Jiraiya said to Naruto, "Next, I will slightly unlock the seal on your body, but even if I only open a small hole in the chakra of Nine Tails, the chakra beyond the imagination of ordinary people will pour into your body. The chakra of Nine Tails is more violent than the chakra refined by ordinary people. Such chakra will definitely make you feel uncomfortable when it flows through your veins. I'll tell you in advance, you have to be mentally prepared." What Jiraiya said was true, and Naruto knew it clearly in his heart. But Naruto was willing to take such a risk. As a ninja, suffering is the most common thing, isn't it? So Naruto didn't hesitate. Instead, he firmly nodded his head, wanting to let Jiraiya see his determination. Seeing Naruto's expression, Jiraiya's expression also became serious. His eyes stared at the chakra flame jumping on his fingertips, then he stretched out his palm and pressed his 5 fingertips directly on Naruto's stomach. After confirming that his chakra had connected with the seal on Naruto's body, Jiraiya also turned his palm about 15 degrees clockwise, opening a hole in the seal on Naruto's body. When Jiraiya's hand just touched Naruto's body, Naruto felt something penetrating his body, and there was a cold tingling feeling. When Jiraiya's palm rotated, Naruto only felt as if a door was opened deep in his body. Inside the door was a raging flame. When the door was opened, oxygen poured into the door, making the flame rise even more fiercely, directly gushing out from the door. Those flames began to gradually penetrate every corner of his body, whether it was his blood vessels or muscles, they seemed to have been put on a flame to roast. The pain made Naruto feel unbearable, and he couldn't help but scream. Naruto's body at this moment was the same as when he was in the Wave Country, wrapped in a layer of red chakra. The few whiskers on his face seemed to have become thicker under the stimulation of chakra, making Naruto's face have a wild look. Slowly, a tail condensed from chakra behind Naruto, and Naruto's own consciousness gradually blurred. The painful scream in his mouth has now turned into a roar like a beast. Looking at Naruto's appearance, Jiraiya knew that Naruto has been affected by the Nine Tails chakra in his body. Different from the original world, Naruto lost his parents and has been living in a state of being despised by people, and at the same time, it also stimulated his tenacity. Now Naruto has a mother who loves him, and a father who is not fond of him but is still alive. Even the half-sealed chakra is now completely sealed in Naruto's body. Therefore, it is normal for Naruto to lose himself in the impact of Nine Tails chakra. And Naruto's current reaction is actually within Jiraiya's expectation. How can a column force master the bijou in his body so easily? Although Naruto has lost his mind now, he is not completely unstoppable. Jiraiya's hand began to print, and soon a ninjutsu was cast. His gray hair seemed to be activated in an instant and rushed directly towards Naruto's body. Chaotic Lion's Hair Jutsu. However, this ninjutsu, which was originally used to trap the enemy and have a certain lethality, began to stimulate Naruto's acupuncture points under Jiraiya's control, so that Naruto's oversaturated chakra is gradually discharged from his body. This is the first time that Naruto directly faced a large amount of Nine Tails chakra, so his body and spirit are not used to such an impact. Now, Jiraiya actually hopes to release the excessive Nine Tails chakra in Naruto's body through his ninjutsu, so that the Nine Tails chakra in Naruto's body can be maintained at a relatively stable value, and then let Naruto's body and spirit gradually adapt to the nature of the Nine Tails chakra in his body. This approach is like giving Naruto a shot called Nine Tails Chakra Immunity Vaccine, so that Naruto can adapt to the Nine Tails chakra, and then have the opportunity to control the Nine Tails chakra. And the effect of this is naturally significant. Although his whole body is wrapped by Jiraiya's white hair, Naruto's consciousness has begun to slowly recover. Although his body still has some discomfort, he still keeps his consciousness awake, and the feeling of discomfort gradually dissipated. Controlling the chakra is a slow process. Only when your spirit and body gradually become stronger can you control more and more of the Biju's power. To achieve such a goal, one must try to use the Kyubi's chakra within the limits of one's control, then accumulate resistance to the Biju's chakra little by little until one can perfectly exert the power of the Biju in one's body. In fact, the best way is to cooperate with a certain seal technique, but I am not so good at seal technique. In the future training, you can tell Shina Kushina this method I taught you and let her use the secret seal technique of the Uzumaki clan to cooperate with you. It will be more effective than using my hair to stimulate your acupuncture points. Jiraiya said and also put away his lion's hair jutsu, and Naruto's body also regained its freedom. Afterward, Jiraiya put his summon scroll in front of Naruto. Obviously, he wanted to fulfill his agreement with Naruto and let Naruto sign a contract with the toad summon beast of Mount Myaboku. Naruto himself was a little dizzy under the impact of the Nine Tails chakra, so he wrote his name on the summon scroll in a daze. Seeing that everything has been solved, Jiraiya turned around and left. He has already given the method to make Naruto stronger to Naruto, and the rest actually depends on Naruto's own efforts. And if Jiraiya didn't have the information about Orochimaru's invasion of Woodleaf, he might have personally watched Naruto's training, but now, he still has to cooperate with some arrangements of Woodleaf. Chapter 297. In fact, the interval between the second exam and the third exam wasn't long. These genin who passed the qualifiers also ushered in their own official exam after hard self-training. During this period of time, Konoha was packed with people. Countless dignitaries and rich businessmen came to Konoha to take a look at the Chunin exam, which can be said to be a grand event. The venue for the third round of the Chunin exam was full of people, waiting for the official start of the exam. On the highest platform, Minato exchanged some pleasantries with the emissary sent by the daimyo of the Fire Country, and then sat down in his seat. On both sides of Watergate's seat, there were 2 chairs prepared for the 3 generations of Woodleaf and the 4th Kazekage of Sunagakure who will come here to watch the Chunin exam. After a while, the 4th Kazekage came to the high platform surrounded by a group of Sunagakure ninjas. After waving his hand to let his men retreat, the 4th Kazekage also came to Watergate's side. Hokage-sama. It's been a long time. Although the 4th Hokage was rumored to not be a person who liked to dance, he still met Watergate and greeted him. Although Watergate knew about the hostility of the Sunagakure to Woodleaf, after all, the 2 sides haven't fallen out yet, so he politely bowed to the 4th Kazekage and said, I still want to thank the Sunagakure for their cooperation in the Chunin exam organized by Woodleaf, allowing us to have the opportunity to see the quality of the younger generation together. I heard that the 3 ninjas of Sunagakure who entered the last round seem to be your children, and they are really young talents. Unlike me, my children have gone through hardships to reach this point. Although all the family information of the Kage as the leader of the shinobi village is confidential, for these people with real power, it's a matter on the surface, so it's better to say it directly. The Kazekage didn't answer Watergate's words. Instead, he was curious about the chair on the other side, so he tentatively asked Watergate. I wonder what this chair is. Watergate knew that the Kazekage was pretending to be confused. Woodleaf was qualified to sit together with the Kazekage. Besides the previous Hokage Yuan Fei, who else could have such qualifications? However, Minato followed Kazekage's words and explained, "Don't worry. This is prepared for our Woodleaf's 3 generations of Hokage. Although Yuan Fei-sama has stepped down from his position as Hokage, as the recognized ninjutsu doctor in the shinobi world, I specially invited him to come here and see our children of Woodleaf." Lord Yuan Fei did not decline and decided to come here to take a look. Speaking of which, we should be arriving soon, right? As soon as Watergate finished speaking, a somewhat old voice sounded behind Watergate. "Ahaha. This old man has been staying at home for a long time. Now that it's a rare event for Woodleaf, I naturally couldn't bear the loneliness and wanted to come and take a look. I hope 4th Kazekage doesn't think this old man is meddlesome." The one who spoke was naturally Yuan Fei, who has stepped down from his position as Hokage. At this moment, the 3 generations of Hokage looked like an ordinary old man, wearing a white loose suit and smiling very kindly to the 4th Kazekage. The 4th Kazekage didn't talk as casually as before when he talked to Watergate. Instead, he also cupped his hands towards the 3 generations and then sat down in his seat. Although the 4th Kazekage's behavior was a bit abnormal, whether it was Watergate or Yuan Fei, they all knew that this Kazekage had ulterior motives. He didn't want to continue talking to them, so naturally, they were too lazy to talk to him. Maybe they will have a good fight with each other later. The 3 Kage or former Kage of their respective villages sat down in their seats. Watergate also nodded to Hayate Gecko, who was standing in the middle of the examination room as the examiner of the 3rd exam, indicating that the exam can start. Speaking of which, Hayate Gecko's life was saved. Ever since Woodleaf knew about Orochimaru and the Sands' premeditated plan, Hayate Gecko didn't die while monitoring the Sands' team leader. Seeing his Kage's signal, Hayate Gecko also gathered his chakra on his throat to increase the volume of his speech, and said to the audience, "The 3rd round of the Chunin exam hosted by Konoha is an unprecedented event involving the participation of 6 countries. After the written test of the 1st exam and the wilderness survival test of the 2nd exam, 10 participants have entered the 3rd exam. We have also announced the assessment method and battle order of the 3rd exam, so we won't talk about it here. Let's welcome the participants of the first battle, Haruno Sakura from Woodleaf Village and Kankuro from Sand Village." Perhaps it's because Hayate Gecko has practiced this kind of opening speech many times before. Under the pressure of the audience, Hayate Gecko didn't even have the habit of coughing 3 times. Instead, he directly said the long opening speech perfectly. After that, he stretched his hand to the stands on both sides, inviting the 2 ninjas to enter the battlefield. At the same time, he also began to briefly introduce the 2 sides of the battle. Kankuro from Sunigakure is a unique puppet master of Sunigakure. In the previous 2 exams, he showed his outstanding combat power and ninja quality as a ninja, and he is the son of the current Kazekage. I believe you can see the battle of a puppet master in this battle. Hearing Hayate Gecko's introduction of himself, Kankuro also put his hand on his puppet, which was wrapped in bandages on his back and only showed some messy hair. But Kankuro's appearance wasn't very good, and the oil paint on his face was very bad. The audience sitting on the side of the examination room also heard that he was the son of the current Kazekage, so they reluctantly gave him a sparse applause. Haruno Sakura from Woodleaf Village is a very good student among the graduates of the ninja school. In the first written exam, Haruno Sakura got the highest score among all the candidates. And in the second exam, her tenacious character and unyielding consciousness let everyone see the strength of Woodleaf Ninja. When Xiaofan heard Gale Moonlight's praise, she waved her hand shyly at the stands. Compared to Gale Moonlight and Gale Moonlight, Xiaofan was simply too beautiful. Moreover, she had the home court advantage. The audience gave Xiaofan face and gave her warm cheers and applause. Chapter 298. Although Kankuro had a cold personality, he was still a young man. When he saw the audience cheering for the girl in front of him, Kankuro felt a little unhappy. When he saw Gale Moonlight standing at the edge of the stands, waiting for the two of them to get ready before announcing the start of the battle, Kankuro slowly undid his puppet named Crow. At the same time, he said to Sakura, "Don't worry, Sakura, I'm not going to give you a chance to win this battle." "Hey," I said. "Little girl, it's better for you to take the initiative to forfeit, right? I also saw your battle in the qualifiers clearly. Speaking of which, you should be a ninja who focuses on taijutsu, right? If it wasn't for your opponent's lack of stamina and you were lucky enough to obtain victory, you probably wouldn't have been able to enter the third round of the exam. I'll give you some face. You can just surrender now so that you won't be beaten to the point where you can't even get up and lose the competition, right?" In fact, everyone knew who their opponents were. Almost everyone had investigated the people who were officially participating in the third round of the exam. After all, there were only a total of 10 people participating in the exam, excluding themselves. There were only 9 people. There was not much pressure to investigate at all, right? Kankuro naturally combined Sakura's performance in the third exam to judge Sakura's approximate strength. As a result, he found that Sakura didn't give him much pressure, and Kankuro knew the basic purpose of his village coming to Woodleaf this time. He estimated that this exam would be cancelled halfway through. Therefore, if he could make his opponent admit defeat, it would naturally allow him to preserve more strength for his next move, wouldn't it? If it was the previous Sakura, maybe she would have already surrendered now. However, under Nangongja's guidance, Sakura felt that her strength had improved greatly. She also made up her mind to let her two teammates see her growth, so she said to Kankuro with a stubborn face, "Master, I'm going to teach you a lesson. You don't have to waste your breath. As a Woodleaf ninja, I won't run away without a fight. Although I know that as a puppet master, you must have a lot of troublesome means, I'm not afraid of getting hurt. I'm afraid that I will lose the courage that I should have kept in my heart all this time." Just like Hayate Gecko's praise just now, perhaps Sakura really represents Woodleaf's strength of character, right? Kankuro also knew that he couldn't make the girl opposite him take the initiative to give up the game, so he completely released the puppet named Crow, wrapped in bandages, revealing its strange shape with 4 arms and 3 eyes. Under the control of chakra in Kankuro's hand, the puppet was also entrenched behind Kankuro. Obviously, it was ready to fight. Sakura also saw Kankuro's posture, and her expression became serious. She took out a pair of gloves with iron plate protection on her joints from the ninja bag behind her and slowly put them on her hands. The two ninjas who were ready nodded to Hayate Gecko at the same time, and Hayate Gecko also understood and said to the audience, "So. The first battle of the third round of the Chunin exam begins now." The audience heard such an announcement, and everyone seemed to be a little restless. The cheers were so noisy, but Kankuro and Sakura automatically filtered these sounds out of their ears and focused on their opponent, waiting for the other party to start. Compared to Sakura, Kankuro's patience is still worse. Seeing that Sakura didn't take the initiative to attack for a long time, Kankuro felt that this can't go on, so he controlled his crow to rush toward Sakura while shouting, "Let me end this boring battle as soon as possible." Sakura herself has a hot temper. When Kankuro said such words, she was naturally very unhappy. The reason why puppeteers are called puppeteers is naturally because all their offensive and defensive means are on puppets. As for the puppeteer himself, compared to their puppets, he is naturally in a weaker position. If you want to defeat a puppeteer, you must defeat the puppeteer as soon as possible. You can't fight too much with the puppets, because puppets are different from humans. Puppets don't get tired, right? But at this moment, Sakura's actions were somewhat different from the average person's thoughts. Sakura didn't think of a way to pass through the puppet's attack. Instead, she rushed straight towards the puppet, and one of her hands turned into a fist, as if she was ready to give the puppet a fierce blow. Seeing Xiao Ying's unusual behavior, Kankuro secretly laughed in his heart. Is she really a genin who has just become a ninja? How could he be so bold as to fight against his own puppet head-on? Compared to Sakura's pair of gloved hands, the puppet is made of harder wood that is specially made. It is impossible to leave any mark on the puppet with the strength level shown by Sakura, so what Sakura is doing now is no different from courting death. In the stands, Naruto also looked at his teammates nervously. For Sakura's action, Naruto felt that it was very cool. He shouted in the stands without caring about his image, "Come on, Sakura. Let this guy opposite you know the power of our Team 7 ninja, go." Unlike Naruto's confidence, Ino Yamanaka, who was Sakura's childhood sweetheart, was also defeated by Sakura before, but she was worried. This kind of fighting method is not the Sakura she knows at all, and for the puppet master, puppets are their strongest means. Using one's weakness to attack the enemy's strength is simply a fool's action. This wide forehead, when did he become so stupid? Nangongja was also standing next to them. Naturally, he saw Naruto's excitement and Ino's worry. Although he was not so familiar with Ino, Nangongja still said to Ino and Naruto, "Don't worry, Sakura's brain is very good. Sakura can't ignore such an opponent. You just continue to watch and cheer for Sakura." Chapter 299. Ino didn't know where Nangongja's confidence came from, but since he was speaking up for Sakura, Ino didn't want to refute Nangongja. Although Ino and Sakura seemed to get along very awkwardly, both of them actually cared about each other. Even just now, Ino was worried that Sakura would be too reckless and hurt her, which was why she said those words. On the other hand, Xiaofan, who was in the arena, did not know about the discussion of the people in the stands. Instead, she was focused on the puppet that was charging towards her. When the distance between them was about a meter, Sakura suddenly stopped. Under Kankuro's control, four sharp blades popped out from the four arms of the crow, and it pounced toward Sakura with bared fangs and brandished claws. The crow itself wasn't very beautiful, and it even had a very sinister feeling. If an ordinary girl saw such a strange thing pouncing towards her, she would be scared to death. However, Sakura didn't seem to be affected at all. She only looked coldly at the trajectory of the crow pouncing towards her. Her originally clenched fist loosened in front of her and she looked extremely relaxed. As Sakura's opponent, Kankuro was naturally cautious. Although he felt that Sakura's actions were very strange, his crow was already in front of Sakura. If he didn't seize the opportunity to attack, wouldn't it be a waste of such a good opportunity? Therefore, although Kankuro was prepared for Sakura's counterattack, he still controlled his puppet to pounce toward Sakura. Sakura didn't have the slightest chakra fluctuation on her body. The moment the crow pounced on her body, she completed a series of movements. When the loose palm in front of her turned into a fist and punched forward, a very obvious sound of air exploding rang in everyone's ears. As the most proficient ninja in Wood Leaf, Mike Guy's face was now full of confusion. In fact, most of Guy's taijutsu was taijutsu. Although he mainly relied on his physical strength, sometimes he still needed to rely on chakra to strengthen his body to a certain extent. However, Sakura had completely broken his common understanding of taijutsu. She clearly didn't use chakra to stimulate his body, but she was able to make his body erupt with such strength. Naturally, Guy could see that this was a relatively shallow technique. After reading it, Guy was confident that he could understand its mysteries in a very short period of time. However, this kind of combat technique opened the door for Guy to use in a new way of fighting. Sakura was just a newly graduated genin. The possibility of her inventing such a technique was very low. So, who taught Sakura these techniques? Guy unconsciously looked at Nangongja, who was leaning on the other side of the railing, casually watching the battle in the field. Nangongja naturally felt Guy's gaze and instantly understood Guy's intention. He smiled casually and ignored Guy. Instead, he continued to watch the battle between Sakura and Kankuro. At this moment, Kankuro was dumbfounded. How could this weak-looking girl's punch, which didn't contain any chakra at all, destroy his puppet. What a joke! However, the dregs from the main body of the crow on the ground were so conspicuous. Sakura's punch directly hit the main body of the crow, and the huge force directly shattered the main body of the crow. If it was only damaged, Kankuro could continue to use it, but in such a situation where the main body was destroyed, it couldn't be repaired in a short time. His crow was a puppet made from the legendary scorpion of the red sand. There were many techniques that even the Sunigakure couldn't crack, but it was easily defeated by Sakura. If it weren't for Kankuro's quick decision to separate the four arms and the head of his crow, the tremendous force would have torn his entire puppet into pieces, wouldn't it? Sakura was also a little confused. Although she knew that her strength had increased a lot because of the guidance from Nangong-san these days, she still didn't expect that she could exert such power. Standing behind Watergate, Jiraiya, who was dressed as an umbu, was also secretly surprised. He only felt that he saw a familiar figure in the young girl standing in the field. Is Woodleaf going to have a new Tsunade? Although she was not used to the damage she caused, Sakura still knew the glorious tradition of taking advantage of the enemy's weakness. She directly increased her speed and rushed toward Kankuro. As a relatively weak puppet master, Kankuro also took out a storage scroll from his body in a hurry. He quickly unlocked the seal on it and wanted to summon his other puppets to block Sakura's attack. Finally, when Sakura arrived in front of him, he summoned a huge fish-shaped puppet to block in front of him. This time, Kankuro finally didn't have time to talk nonsense. He relied on his puppet called Salamander to block Sakura's attack, but without the crow, Kankuro's attack was greatly weakened. He looked at his team leader ninja, Baki. Baki also shook her head, indicating that Kankuro didn't need to continue fighting. If this continues, it will be a waste of their own combat power. Knowing Baki's meaning, although Kankuro was not so convinced, he still raised one of his hands and said loudly to Hayate Gecko, the invigilator of the exam, "I admit defeat." When Sakura heard Kankuro's declaration of defeat, although she felt very strange in her heart, she stopped her crazy attack and stood in place. Hayate Gecko didn't react for a while. After all, in Hayate Gecko's eyes, Kankuro still had a chance to win, right? But since Kankuro decided to admit defeat, Hayate Gecko naturally couldn't say anything. He directly walked to Sakura's side, raised Sakura's hand, and announced Sakura's victory. This kind of anticlimactic battle naturally made Sakura feel very puzzled, but since she won, there was naturally no need to say so much, right? Xiaofan was also very happy as she walked to the spectator stand for the preparation with a smile, waiting for the next exam to begin. Chapter 300. At the beginning of the third Chunin exam, no one was optimistic about Sakura, who looked weak. After all, the strength of Sunigakure's three-man team was obvious to all. Kankuro, who was good at puppetry, Temari, who was good at wind release ninjutsu, and Gaara, who controlled sand and seemed to be very bloodthirsty and violent. These three people had more combat experience than most of the ninjas who participated in the Chunin exam. Compared with Sakura, who just graduated from the Ninja Academy this year, who was stronger? Everyone had their own considerations. When Sakura suddenly burst out with such amazing power and directly blew up Kankuro's puppet, everyone's eyes were stunned. But no one thought that Sakura was already a sure win, because puppeteers were not only good at controlling puppets to attack in close range, but also a variety of hidden weapons and poisons. However, Kankuro didn't use the puppeteer's real attack method. Instead, he seemed to surrender immediately after his puppet was damaged. Everyone could feel the thick aura of conspiracy in this battle that started strong but ended weak. Although Sakura looked like she was smiling, when she walked to Nangong's side, her face became gloomy. "Nangong-san, you told me before that puppeteers have all kinds of unexpected means, so I paid full attention to it. You even prepared a lot of antidotes for me before the game, but I didn't expect Kankuro to surrender so quickly. What do they want to do?" Sakura said, and her eyes looked in the direction of Tsunagekyu's reference ninja and their lead sensei. The suspicion in her eyes was simply too strong to be dispelled. Naruto naturally heard Sakura's words, and with some confusion, he asked Sakura, "What's the matter? Isn't it good to be able to defeat the opponent smoothly and enter the next round?" When Nangongja heard Naruto's words, he didn't have any psychological pressure and said to Sakura, "Sakura, you don't have to care so much. You don't have to worry so much about these dirty things between adults. No matter what the consequences are, there are naturally some adults who don't mind watching the fun. Since we've won, let's just be happy." When Sakura heard Nangongja's words, although she was still very confused, she wasn't so serious. Yes, Woodleaf has Hokage, Umbu, and many Jonin-level ninjas. She was just a little ninja who was still working hard to become a Chunin. Even if there was something very important, how much strength could she exert? Wouldn't it be better to live up to his own victory and be happy for a while? Although Hayate Gecko was a little worried because the last battle was very strange, after all, the next battle was about to start. He adjusted his mentality and said to the audience, "Now, let's start the second battle of the third round of the Chunin exam. The two contestants are Hyuga Niji of Woodleaf and Uzumaki Naruto." Hyuga Niji is the descendant of Woodleaf's Hyuga branch family. As the disciple of Woodleaf's special Jonin, Might Guy, he was recommended to take the Chunin exam. Uzumaki Naruto is the child of our Woodleaf's Hokage, Minato Watergate. He also had a conspicuous performance in this exam. Now, let's invite the two ninjas to enter the arena. Hearing his name being called in the arena, Naruto also jumped to the middle of the arena. On the opposite side of Naruto was Hyuga Niji of Hyuga clan. Like Sasuke, Hyuga Niji also had a cold face, but there was a trace of sadness on his face, like a pitiful person who has seen through the fickleness of the world. In fact, the two of them have a lot to be introduced by Hayate Gecko, but Niji is a member of the Hyuga branch family. If Hayate Gecko praised Hyuga Niji, it would naturally make the Hyuga clan embarrassed. And Naruto, as the son of Hokage and a member of Nine Tails, Column Force, he can't let Naruto be too famous. Otherwise, Minato Watergate might not be able to hold it in and tear Hayate Gecko apart. So, the two people who could have been introduced more simply because of various reasons. Naruto and Niji didn't seem to care about Hayate Gecko's simple introduction. Instead, they looked at each other seriously. Niji's voice was cold as he said to Naruto, "The last battle was really boring. I think many people hope that the battle between us can be more exciting, but I think they will be disappointed because you will lose faster in front of me than the previous guy with a face full of paint. Although you are the child of Yondaime Hokage, you are destined to lose to me. This is your fate." Naruto looked at Niji's mouth. At first, he listened to a few words, but the more Niji talked, the more stupid he became. Naruto felt that it was boring. When he realized that Niji had finished talking, Naruto finally spoke. "Fate? I really don't believe in fate. I don't want to talk to you about people conquering the heavens, because I don't think you will listen to me even if I talk to you for a long time. So, I just want to beat you up and make you apologize to Hinata." In the third exam qualifier, Niji fought against Hyuga Hinata, who came from the main family and had a good relationship with Naruto. However, this Hyuga guy with cataracts almost injured Hinata both internally and externally. Even after so long, Hinata still came here to watch the game with bandages all over her body. When Naruto saw the originally delicate Hinata's sickly face, he had a lot of anger in his heart towards this guy named Niji. Since there's anger, it's better to vent it out, right? When he heard Hinata's name, Niji's eyes also fluctuated. Niji didn't have no feelings for his cousin, but at that time, he was hot-blooded and hurt her. He felt a little guilty. When Naruto said it now, that guilt quietly turned into anger towards Naruto, making Niji want to beat Naruto to the point that he can't take care of himself. Both of them were angry, and naturally, they were on the verge of exploding. Before Hayate Gecko announced the official start of the exam, the two had already begun to observe each other's movements, ready to attack at any time. Chapter 301. Gale Moonlight looked at the two people who were already in battle mode. Although he was a little unhappy that they ignored him, he still dutifully retreated, leaving space for the two people to fight. The two people who had been staring at each other for a while were in a stalemate. Naruto's eyes drifted a little as Ning-ji, who practiced gentle fist and had a very calm personality. Ning-ji also noticed Naruto's momentary absent-mindedness and directly increased his speed. The Byakugan also opened instantly and rushed towards Naruto. Naruto naturally also noticed Ning-ji's attack. Combined with the fact that Gentle Fist could seal the acupoints on the body, Naruto decided to temporarily defend and fight. He also directly used his best skill, Shadow Clone Technique. He split into 6 shadows and rushed towards Ning-ji from different directions. Each of them attacked different parts of Ning-ji's body, hoping to delay Ning-ji's attack. Ning-ji looked at Naruto's shadow clones and found that his Byakugan couldn't determine which one was Naruto's shadow clones and which one was the real body. However, Ning-ji didn't panic. Instead, he stood in place and assumed a posture as if he was waiting for Naruto to attack. Gentle Fist was different from Steel Fist. Steel Fist focused on the initiative and directly used a huge amount of strength to deal with the enemy before the opponent could react. However, Gentle Fist was the opposite. It was often used after seeing through the opponent's plan. Just like Ning-ji's sudden attack just now, it was actually to force Naruto to attack passively. Such a rapid attack would definitely cause Naruto to reveal a lot of flaws. Although the shadow clones were indeed very exquisite, it actually only increased the number of enemies for Ning-ji. As long as he was strong enough, even if Naruto's shadow clones doubled, Ning-ji wouldn't feel too much pressure. When Naruto saw Ning-ji stop moving, he felt that there was a trick. However, Naruto was clear about the characteristics of his shadow clones. Naturally, he was confident that Ning-ji couldn't distinguish between his real body and his shadow clones. In that case, he might as well continue attacking. It was good to let Ning-ji have a taste of being ganged up on and let him know that he wasn't invincible. Nangongja's teaching still flashed across Naruto's mind. The so-called battle was actually very simple. No matter how complicated the means were, it was actually a matter of the strong bullying the weak, the fast beating the slow. Naruto still had a certain amount of confidence in his strength and speed. According to the strength and speed that Ning-ji displayed in the third exam qualifier, Naruto still had the strength to fight. Seeing his fist slowly approaching Ning-ji's body, whether it was Naruto's real body or his shadow clones, their faces revealed a joyful expression. However, Ning-ji didn't have a worried expression. Instead, he smiled confidently and waited for Naruto's attack. After confirming that the distance was right, Ning-ji directly controlled his chakra to gush out from all the acupoints on his body. His body spun because of the large amount of chakra. Ning-ji's figure was replaced by a huge blue and white chakra sphere. Naruto's real body and his shadow clones were in the range of the sphere's attack. After a few explosions, Naruto's shadow clones directly disappeared into the air. Naruto's real body was also directly sent flying by the huge force of the chakra sphere, drawing a long gully on the ground. The head of the Hyuga family, Hyuga Hayashi, who was evaluating Ning-ji's performance from time to time and teaching his little daughter Hanabi, also widened his eyes when he saw Ning-ji's move. This is revolving heaven? As the head of the Hyuga family, Hyuga Hayashi naturally knew that no one would teach the branch family a move like revolving heaven. If the branch family wanted to learn this move, they could only experiment bit by bit. The difficulty was self-evident, but Ning-ji actually directly used such a move that was considered a secret move among the soft fist techniques. Naturally, one could see his talent and intelligence. Niji also stopped his revolving heaven, suppressed the dizziness in his mind, and said to Naruto, "Don't worry, Naruto. This is the power you wanted to use to teach me a lesson? Isn't it defeated with just one blow? I said before, fate is on my side. You will definitely lose to me in this battle." Naruto's body was now covered with large and small wounds. Not only were there bruises after being thrown out by a huge force, but also because he was in the range of the revolving heaven, and the chakra invaded his body, causing a certain amount of damage. Surprisingly, Naruto didn't talk back to Ning-ji. Instead, he looked at his father, Minato Watergate, who was sitting on the high platform. But at this moment, Minato Watergate seemed to be whispering something with the 3 generations of Hokage. Even if his son was injured, he didn't look at him. Instead, he looked at Nangongja's position and found that his mother was already beside Nangongja. She was looking at him with a worried face. On the other hand, Nangongja seemed to be very confident and said something to his mother. Now was not the time for him to lie on the ground like a dead dog, struggling at death's door. Her mother was worried about her, her uncle Nangong believed in her, and her father, who she looked down on, had yet to pay attention to her. How could she admit defeat like this? The things that support Naruto's advancement are all in the Chunin exam. At this time, Naruto is absolutely unwilling to admit defeat. With the fluctuation of Naruto's emotions, Naruto's body gradually began to emerge a different red chakra from ordinary people. The large and small wounds on his body began to slowly heal at this moment. This is Nine-Tails' chakra. Whether it was Naruto or Watergate, they have already felt this violent but very familiar chakra. Both of them turned their eyes to Shina Kushina. Nangongja, who was closer to Shina Kushina, whispered to Nangongja. During this time, Naruto didn't waste his time, did he? Under the persuasion of Jiraiya-sensei, I have gradually begun to teach Naruto how to use the chakra in his body. Although it can't be said that he can use it freely, it has already become a fighting force. How can my son lose to someone else so casually? Chapter 302. When Naruto began to release the Nine-Tails chakra in his body, his temperament quietly changed. The original gentle temperament was replaced by a violent aura at this moment. As Naruto's opponent, Ning-ji felt it the clearest. It was as if the Naruto in front of him had changed into a different person in an instant. In the vision of Ning-ji's Byakugan, a blood-red chakra suddenly appeared in the originally black and white world. This chakra wrapped around Naruto's body. The jumping chakra seemed to faintly outline the face of a fox. "You? What kind of monster are you?" Ning-ji muttered to himself, but even such a soft voice was heard by Naruto. With a sarcastic smile on his face, Naruto said to Ning-ji, "Monster? Can you only call me a monster for something you don't understand? You keep talking about fate, but have you ever speculated about my strength? You're just an ignorant person who looks at the sky from the bottom of a well, but you lie to yourself that you can see everything clearly? How can a half-grown child like you see through reality and hypocrisy?" When Naruto said this, he activated the chakra in his body. In an instant, his speed soared to an unprecedented height. Even Ning-ji's Byakugan could only vaguely see the afterimage of Naruto's body in the air when he moved. In the blink of an eye, Naruto had already reached Niji's side and punched him directly in the face. Niji flew out with a bang. He struggled to prop himself up. His face was a little red and swollen from Naruto's punch just now. There was even a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. Seeing Ning-ji stand up with difficulty, Naruto returned to Ning-ji's side and said to the somewhat embarrassed Ning-ji, "Stand up. Didn't you always think that your gentle fist was very powerful? Didn't you think that you could crush all your opponents? Why are you in such a miserable state now? Since you want to teach me a lesson, use your full strength." Naruto's words were very harsh. Some people in the stands who were very familiar with Naruto frowned slightly. Obviously, they felt that the person in the field who almost crushed Ning-ji was not the Naruto they knew. He no longer had his usual lively personality. Instead, he looked somewhat evil and bloodthirsty. Ningji and Naruto weren't that familiar. Regarding Naruto's current performance, Ningji was very angry in his heart. Stood up and made a gesture towards Naruto. Chakra surged all over his body. That's more like it's. Seeing Niji's expression, Naruto seemed to find it very interesting and commented on Niji's actions. 8 trigrams. 64 palms. An inexplicable aura locked onto Naruto. Ningji's eyes stared intently at the 64 important acupoints on Naruto's body. He seemed to feel that the time was right. He approached Naruto in a few steps and continuously sent palm strikes towards Naruto while shouting loudly. 8 trigrams 2 palms. 4 palms. 8 palms. 16 palms. 32 palms. At this point, Ningji obviously knew that chakra wasn't good enough. However, looking at Naruto's face, he seemed to remember Naruto's ridicule towards him. He gritted his teeth and used all his strength to send out the last move. 8 trigrams. 64 palms. Naruto didn't dodge Ningji's attack. He even rushed forward to receive Ningji's attack. This 8 trigrams 64 palms can be said to be Ningji's best move. He didn't use it as perfectly as he did now. The 64 important acupoints on Naruto's body were all blocked by Ningji's chakra. His veins couldn't conduct chakra anymore. I'm not destined to be weak like you. I practice hard every day. My gentle fist is the best among the younger generation of the Hyuga clan. Even many of my uncles aren't as proficient as me. How can a spoiled son of the Hokage be my opponent? Ningji looked down on Naruto very much in his heart. After all, his father and Naruto's father were very different. Naruto's father was the Hokage of Woodleaf Village that everyone looked up to. Almost every ninja in Woodleaf Village relied on Watergate to live. As a child of Watergate, Naruto's life must be very good. But what about himself? When he was young, in order to protect the Hyuga clan's head, his father had to sacrifice his life as a scapegoat. Since childhood, everyone looked at him with either disgust or pity. Ningji's pride didn't allow anyone to belittle him. Therefore, Ningji cultivated diligently. Every day, Ningji would train until his body could no longer move before stopping. And Naruto? Every day, he was addicted to cheap pranks, and after becoming a ninja, he was in the limelight. In Ningji's view, it was because Naruto had a good father that he could be so unscrupulous. And it was precisely because he trained so hard that although he suppressed Naruto a little at the beginning of the battle, Naruto broke out with this strange chakra and even surpassed him. Ningji was very unconvinced. Looking at Naruto, who was now unable to move, Ningji didn't know why he had a successful revenge in his heart. Even if there were so many people taking care of him, in the end, wouldn't Naruto be trampled under his feet? But Ningji's excitement didn't last long, because Naruto's originally stiff body broke out with an even more powerful chakra at this moment. The chakra filled Naruto's body, and the acupoints that were originally sealed by Ningji's chakra were instantly opened under the impact of this powerful chakra. Because of the eruption just now, Ningji's body had become weak and powerless. Now that he saw Naruto was about to break free from his shackles, his eyes widened, and he didn't want to believe it. Is that it? Naruto stared at Ningji with a little disappointment on his face and said to Ningji, "Is this the power you are proud of? Is this the reason why you think you are superior to others?" No. Can. 1. Strike. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.